Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Luke Deckard Show. I am your host, Luke Deckard. And tonight, I have Neil Vagg with me from Get Your Comic On podcast and website. And we're chatting Star Trek Picard, episodes 5 through 8. Neil, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm very, very excited to talk
Yes.
Picard.
Oh, I'm too. My first few Picard episodes have just been me solo streaming it, just rambling on for 2 hours. We won't go for two. We don't have to go for 2 hours, but the previous two we could easily do, and if we do, it's fine. But yeah, my previous have been solo. So I was like, I need someone to join me. And then when I saw you, I was like, there we go. Let's get you on. Let's talk Picard because I need to bounce Picard ideas off of someone.
And what a week to talk about it as well with episode 8.
Oh, I know. I think the thing with like episodes 5 through 7, we don't really need to like review them in detail, but like just talk about bits that are the most interesting bits because I think it's been so long since some of them have come out. People probably talked about certain bits of death, but there's definitely a lot to talk about, particularly with episode 8. Geez, yeah, where to start? Let's go back a little bit because it'd be so easy to jump into episode 8. But I'll try and have some restraint. Let's chat Ro Laren. Have you guessed anything before it's happened on Picard? Because I have 3 times.
That's a good question. A couple of bits, yeah. So I guessed what would be waiting for Riker on the Shrike when he was being taken. When they went, by the time they were pretty much getting to Daystrom Station, I had a very good idea as to what was going to be, firstly, one of the characters that would get picked up there that we'd not seen, but also what may have been taken from there. I just had this feeling that it was going to tie right back to season 1. So there's been a couple of things, yeah. I did not see Ro coming. Ro, I fell off my seat when that happened. When she came strutting into that scene, I was just like, yes. Absolutely. Oh.
Ro Laren. I guessed it only because the way that they worded it on Twitter when they said a prodigal returns.
Okay, yeah.
And I had to think about this. I thought I overthought about this for way too long, but I was like, who would be a prodigal in Next Generation? And the only person that came to mind is like, well, the only person who fits that is Ro Laren. And I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I tweeted, I was like, wouldn't it be funny if it's Ro Laren? And then like the next day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was right. But one of my friends was tweeting at me and he was making me a little bit skeptical. Like that, but he had seen the episode, the cheeky bugger, but he didn't tell me. But yeah, I was like, Ro Laren. The other thing that I guessed that I thought this was quite simple though, was in the very first episode, I knew straight away that Raffi's handler was Worf.
Oh yes, I did. That wording on screen straight away. You are a warrior.
Yes. How did people not see that? I don't know, but some people didn't. And I was somewhat wrong on because this ties back to the episode 6 Bounty. I was sort of right and sort of wrong with Moriarty.
Okay.
I thought Moriarty would be a counter AI that they would use to battle the Daystrom AI.
Okay, yeah.
But so, he was part of the AI, but he wasn't the AI that I, in my head, sort of envisioned. So yeah, I got notes. I write my notes on paper because
I like it.
I'm an old man. What do you think of the episode Imposter in general?
I guess I got caught up in the row of all of it, but I thought it was one of the episodes that really hit you in the gut. I mean, the way they played Picard's feelings towards Ro, I thought was really interesting.
Yes.
And so typical of what I guess New Trek and particularly Terry Metalis' version of Trek has done, which is really give the rich emotional context to the characters. That whole quote around how Gene Roddenberry never wanted any conflict on the bridge, so everyone had to be a happy family for 7 seasons. I thought this was an episode that really exemplified giving them the context and the what's the word I'm looking for? The conflict between them. So I loved seeing
Yeah.
Picard really angry at her and feeling betrayed, and
Yes.
kind of reflecting that back to him. So when they end up in the holodeck in the bar, that blew me away. So many good
Yeah.
scenes in that holodeck as well.
Yes.
Generally,
Yes.
when people are either about to die or think they're about to die.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think about the use of the holodeck in this season?
It's interesting, isn't it? It's different to how we've ever sort of really used it before. I loved
Yeah.
the throwaway line about how is this working? Because we have no other power and the ship is literally falling, plummeting to its death.
Yes.
And actually, it has its own battery power so that we can come and just pretend like we're not dying here.
Yes.
I thought was really interesting.
It
I
was.
guess a nice way to keep the 10 forward set involved in so many different scenes and flashbacks,
Yes.
present day holodeck. Um,
Yeah.
but I guess it's been a little bit of a crutch in a way of places for them to go and hide when they need to.
A little bit. I kind of assumed really early on that the reason they have that set, because obviously they filmed Picard 2 and 3 at the same
Yeah,
time,
back to back.
or back to back on the same time, back to back. So I was like, they just kept this set because it was cheaper than building a new set.
Yeah, maybe.
Which is fine, but as you said, it has become a bit of a crutch, and I'm like, because I think in season episode 8 we didn't get any 10 forward, and
No, we
I
didn't.
was pleased with that. I was
I
pleased
don't.
with
Did
that.
we see it? We didn't see it in 7 either. I don't think we've seen it in this two-parter.
We might not have seen it in 7 as well. We might not.
Yeah.
I can't remember now, but yeah, I was certainly I would have. Here's an interesting idea. Would you have liked it a little bit? Let me rephrase this. What do you think? Because I don't buy that Picard cares about this 10 forward bar. That's just one of my nitpicks. It's a place we've never seen in Trek history, and I think
Mm.
he would have. Picard loves horses. He loves outdoors. I would have imagined him going
Yeah.
to like his horse holodeck program.
Yeah.
Where would you, if you could pick any other setting for their holodeck escape? What would you choose?
Ooh. Me personally, or me in a
Mm.
Trek way?
Oh,
If it's me
you in a
personally,
Trek way. In the
okay.
if you're Picard, you're Picard now. Pulling your shirt down. What am I gonna pick? Boop boop boop.
Dixon Hill's office.
Oh yes. Oh, that would have been
I'm
great.
going to Dixon Hill's office.
That was also in First Contact, not The Office, but he
Yeah.
went into a Dixon Hill program.
Yeah.
Oh, that
I've never even that's never crossed my mind until just now, but that's where I personally I would see him going. If you were asking me that question before having seen it, I would have said it's going to be something Dixon Hill related.
yes.
Particularly given there was the Dixon Hill Easter egg in season 2 as well. The book that Renee Picard was reading was a Dixon Hill novel. When Q was spying on her when he first saw her, she was reading a Dixon Hill novel.
That's
So
right.
it's there.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's so true. Oh my gosh. There's someone in the chat mentions our Moldrake says the new 10 forward is certainly the holodeck, a new take on the TNG era. Yes, I agree. Yeah, Dixon Hill's office would have been cool. I almost would have been I would have bought maybe 10, maybe 10 forward from the Enterprise D, but I
Yeah.
guess that's a much bigger, more complicated set to make if you already have that 10 forward.
How much of it did we see? Because we saw that in the first episode of Picard, that
Yes.
opening dream sequence. I don't
Yes.
think we saw that much really, other than the bulkhead and the table, did we?
I don't think so. I doubt they recreated the whole
Yeah.
set for that, because it was just the one scene, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
they I bet there was a lot of green screen around them,
Yeah,
and
I
it was
imagine
filled
so.
in. It was filled in that way. Did you think Ro was a changeling?
No, I felt like that was going to be that it would try and lead us to believe that, but I never thought for a second that she was.
Yeah.
I was convinced from the beginning that she was Ro.
Mm.
I felt like if you're bringing her back, and maybe this is just my personal feelings about the character because she's such a badass,
Yes.
but I feel like if you're bringing her back, knowing how much fans wanted more of her back then,
Yes.
I think it had to always be her.
Yes. Yes. Here's a silly nitpick. This is a silly nitpick, but why don't they just give her bangs? There was something just
Where was the
slightly off.
hairband?
Yes, the hairband of the bangs would have completed the picture, because I think that also added to an element of uncertainty as
Yeah,
to if she's
true.
real or not. Because of that, every time we've seen Rose, she's either had bangs or she's had the headband,
Yep.
and not having either of those things, I was like, something is off. But it added to that suspense, I think, of us trying to decide, because I wasn't sure, but I kind of thought, well, it would be really silly to not have
Yeah,
it be the real. Not this is a really big character to bring back, and for it to not be the real
yeah.
one would be,
And they use the earring to kind of throw you off slightly as well, with that
yes,
with Picard pointing out that was the thing that we thought about, that you wanted to wear it. Where is it
yes,
now? Like,
yes, yes,
mm, not sure that
hmm,
you're you.
yes. Um, what about Shaw? I'm like everyone else. He has become one of my favorites
Yeah.
of this season. Um, I love the fact that he's just like straight up. I've called Starfleet. They're on their way, and they're like, "What do you think about Shaw?"
Every time you think that he's starting to mellow as well, he just doesn't. Um,
It's so
like you
true.
have that moment between him and Seven when they're trying to open up the nacelles, and you're like, oh, he's going to call her. He's going to call her
Yes,
Seven from now on. Nope. Still arguing about it in episode 8. In fact,
yes, yes, yes,
I really like him. I think he's amazing. He's such a great character. I love Todd
yes,
Stashwick. He's a great actor.
yes,
And I think he's brilliantly cast. I love seeing a snarky, grumpy captain, but
yes.
then so many layers, because I never saw coming until just before it happened. The scene in 10 Forward, once again,
Mm,
where he really gets to kind of unload the reasons why he has so, particular feelings about Picard.
yes,
So it just, yeah, I think he's
is
really well written, and I've feared for him in the last 2 episodes, particularly.
yes,
So going into 9 and 10, I'm just fingers crossed he's going to make it to Legacy.
yes,
Just get it.
yes,
Just get to Legacy. Come on.
yes. I feel like there is a lot of, but obviously, the actors aren't going to spoil anything. But I feel like there's so much talk about it and him and
Yeah,
Seven together that I feel like he probably does survive.
yeah. I
It
hope
would
so.
be, while it would be dramatic, we all know who the real sacrifice needs to be,
Mm,
and we'll get
we'll
to
get
that.
to that.
We'll get to that. But there is one real sacrifice that should happen, and there's something I keep trying to say season 8. There's something in episode 8 that makes it clear that this is like the last shot for this particular person. So I will, but we will get to that.
I had
Um,
the absolute wonderful, amazing, great pleasure of interviewing Jerry Ryan and Todd Stashwick together at the junket,
oh,
um,
awesome!
and they were dynamite. They
Tell
were
me about it.
absolute dynamite. I only had 5 minutes with them, and
Yeah.
I think I barely got 2 questions because it was just go. And they were both amazing, and such amazing chemistry in real life as well as on screen.
Yes. Yes.
So I just want so much more of the two of them together.
I do too. It has been a while. It's been a long time. So I don't know if you know this or not. I'm very very picky about Trek. Right. I go. I'm loving Picard season 3. I didn't really enjoy 1 and 2.
Hmm.
And I'm very picky about Discovery and Strange New Worlds. I'm very picky about it. Not jackass about it, but I'm very picky about it.
How do we feel about
Um,
Lower Decks?
I love Lower Decks. I love Lower Decks. There is it's quite irreverent, but it
Yeah,
captures the charm of Star Trek, and it
yeah.
has like the right amount of Easter eggs. I think we need to stop calling them Easter eggs because you don't have to hunt for them. It has the right amount of
They're right
references.
there. They're just right. They're right in front of you. They're not. Yeah, there's no hunting involved anymore.
It's like, hey, wait, do you see Captain Kirk? No, I don't see him. Yeah, no, it's I have thoroughly enjoyed that show. Yeah, that one is good. But yeah, so for me, it's been a while since, and I didn't really like Enterprise either. I
It's the only one that I've actually never seen every episode of.
same same. I tried. I
Yeah,
tried when on Netflix. It's like, all right, let's do it. Here we go.
I did this whole thing on social media during the pandemic. I filmed a little video where I was like, I'm finally going to do it. You're going to join me. I'm going to tweet my thoughts on every episode. I
Yep.
watched 4 and then immediately rewatched DS9, the whole 7 seasons.
I mean, that's the way to do it.
Yeah. I
Oh,
watched 4 episodes and went, no, give me one that I love.
what I did with Enterprise, and I'm sorry because I know like Terry Metalis worked on Enterprise as well, and I know the people who worked on the other treks worked on it, and I love a lot of, I love Voyager, Deep Space Nine, TNG, TOS. I love those. Those are great. There's just something that was a little tired with Enterprise, and some of the characters had their charm, but there was just the episodes didn't grip me enough
Yeah.
watching it. So I struggled. So I watched, I think I looked like top 10 episodes, and that's about as far as I've gotten with Enterprise.
As long as you are on board the all Trek is Trek, and rather than, new Trek is not Trek.
Right. Yeah, that is a weird argument. That is a weird kind of it's one of those things where like if you don't like it, and this is my sense, if you don't like something, don't watch it.
Yeah.
So I tend to not watch some of the others. Otherwise, I'd just be hate watching, and I got better things. I got better things to do with my time.
Exactly. Just find the bits that you enjoy and enjoy them.
Exactly. Yes. And that's fine. And also, if headcanon is such an interesting thing because you can make anything canon and not canon.
Yeah.
I don't have to consider Strange New Worlds canon if I don't want to. You don't have to. It's your prerogative. Like I'm happy to watch season 3 of Picard and not really think about 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Other people might love the series, and that's fine. I don't care. But the snobbery of like, it's like just back off. Like, just let people have their fun. If they're loving it and it's bringing people to Trek, and I know some people don't like that kind of logic either, but it's like, whatever. Yeah. But then you also have to remember, like, people hated TNG, people hated Voyager, people hated Deep Space Nine, and then over time it won affection. So
yeah.
And
I think the great thing about having so many different shows on now, in having 2 animated shows, having Discovery, which I now feel like is almost kind of an emotional cousin to Deep Space Nine in its type of storytelling.
Yeah.
And then, you have Strange New Worlds, which is the TNG TOS episodic.
Yes.
You have Picard, which is the nostalgia. There is, if you're looking for something specific, there are options there. And, if you want to bring the kids in, you watch Prodigy, which I am addicted to. I love it. It's brilliant. I am totally not the target market, but I eat that stuff up. And I think that's a wonderful thing to have. And I think other... if you look at something like, for instance, the MCU, that's now a product where you have to watch every show, every movie to understand what is going on. Yeah. Whereas, if you are only watching Discovery, you don't have to watch all the other shows. You can watch your chosen Trek and just enjoy it for what it is.
Absolutely.
Having said that, obviously, we do have Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds crossing over later this year. But,
are they? I think I heard about that. Who? Yes.
So, Mariner and Boimler, so Jack Quaid and Tawny Newsome, are appearing in live action as their characters in Strange New Worlds.
Amazing. So they're going back in time.
Obviously. Presumably, yeah. Can't wait.
That will be. I might watch that episode. That actually sounds pretty fun. I quite like that idea. No, I totally agree. You can kind of pick your avenues and go with it. I think if I was in charge, the only thing I would have done is I would not have made Discovery a prequel.
Agreed. Yeah.
And because I think the best thing about even Picard 1 and 2 and 3 is I love seeing the progression of time, and I don't care as much about retreading old ground. So I think those are probably my 2 biggest things with those other series. I'm like, but like Lower Decks, that kind of takes place. When does that take place?
So it's post Nemesis, pre Picard.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So that's
Riker is captain of the Titan. Troy is on the Titan. Thad has not been born. So
that's right.
Pre-Thad.
That's right. Yeah. So that I'm fine. Like that's fine because that's a big chunk of time that we never saw explored, and Picard exploring. That's fine. I'm cool with that, and I love dark stories. I don't really mind when Trek goes a bit dark. Deep Space Nine was very dark. I think I don't know if you thought it when you rewatched it recently. I mean, because we rewatched it during the pandemic as well, and there were times like, man, this is this is very, very dark. The stuff that they're doing here
Yeah.
is you know, super, yeah, super
I mean,
dark,
tied
super
to
gritty.
what's going on now in Picard, there was an episode I had totally forgotten about in the final season
Mm.
where there's the episode where Nog loses his leg,
Oh
where they
yes,
literally spend the entire episode on the front line. I mean, it's a it's almost a bit of a bottle episode because it's quite a small cast.
yeah,
It's not like it's huge in action, but they're on the front line and you see some of the action, and
yeah,
it's, you see Quark dealing with watching his nephew lose his leg and
yeah,
potentially die having been shot in this battle, and you see the PTSD of the Starfleet officers who are on the front line in the Dominion War. And I
yes,
watched it and I thought, firstly, I don't remember this, I must have blocked it out, but also, man, this is really heavy,
yes.
really, really heavy stuff.
Yes, yes, they were really showing the realities of war on
Yeah,
this Saturday night TV show.
yeah,
And it was great. I mean, it was I watched it. I watched seasons 6 and 7 live. The others I sort of missed because I was a bit too young and not paying attention, but I definitely was on for season 6 and 7. And yeah, those were there was so much emotion going on, and there's a reason for me that Captain Cisco and that crew are my favorite crew.
mm,
I mean, I love TOS, I love TNG, and Captain Kirk, go Captain Kirk. But there's just something about Cisco and Deep Space Nine that I resonated with. It is probably because I was watching it live and experiencing the drama, week
yeah,
by week. But yeah, that was such a. I think people kind of gloss over, and even if you go back to TOS, there are. It might be '60s cheese here every once in a while, but there's still dark
yeah,
moments, amongst the neon colors. There are hard hitting things. So Trek has always been dark. But what's your take on? We're totally sidetracked at the moment, but that's fine. What's your take on Starfleet and Starfleet being corrupt? Because that's a big theme in Picard 3.
yeah.
It's peppered throughout the series in general, but what's your take on it?
it, I do feel like we have slightly retread some of season one, because
Mm,
obviously you had the Romulans having infiltrated Starfleet in season one, and now
yeah,
it's the Changelings that have infiltrated. So that took me a hot minute to just go, okay, so we're doing an infiltration, slightly corrupt thing again.
yeah.
Um, I do. There does seem to be this obsession with Section 31, and obviously we may get the Section 31 show with Michelle Gomez, Michelle Yeoh. Um,
Will we really? I think they missed the boat on that.
she still says she wants to do it.
Okay, all right,
Even
fair enough.
post Oscar, she says she wants to do it. She loves Star Trek,
Fair
so I
enough.
don't.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
Alex Kurtzman says that he still is planning on it happening,
Okay.
but I do feel like there is a slight addiction to that
Yeah.
and what that might mean for Starfleet. So obviously, it's been in Discovery a lot,
Yes.
leading to what could be its own show. We saw it in the J.J. Abrams movies. You
Yes.
do see it in Deep Space Nine as well,
Yeah.
and it comes up in comics quite a lot as well. Section 31 just seems to be a thing that is very popular at the moment, and
Yes.
I do wonder whether it's taken us not too far away from, but just maybe a touch too far from the kind of Gene Roddenberry
Yeah.
glorified future idea that where it was born from.
Yes.
Um, but I guess in a way you're sort of saying this is a shining beacon of hope, and people will always want to try and tear that apart for some reason. Um,
Yes.
so
Yes.
I enjoy watching it, but at the same time, my rational brain thinks, are we spending a bit too much time doing this?
Mm. I have to agree. I think I love the idea of Section 31 in Deep Space Nine. It was also very vague in Deep Space Nine.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was very clear. Oh, I say vague and then I say clear. So what do I mean? What do I mean? Um, it was it was vague and clear at the same time, but it did appear to me that Section 31 was not actually Starfleet.
Mm,
It wasn't Starfleet. It wasn't the Federation. It was this other organization that is connected but not connected, right? And that was my thing with it. So I was like, that's fine, but I do feel like you said, they've latched onto it too much, and it's not as interesting as I think they think it is. Um,
yeah, because I
Less is
don't
more.
know where. So for a show, for instance, I don't
Mm,
know exactly where you would go with it.
mm. Yes.
because yes, it's like I almost imagine it being like the TV show Fringe, but in space. Like
Yes.
if that's
Yes.
what if I was making that show, that's what I would do. I would have this slightly more secretive, off the books group that are not kind of openly interacting with the rest of Starfleet, who
Yes.
are exploring weird stuff.
Yes.
Just give
Yes.
me weird stuff,
Yes.
not we're going to be doing stuff that is completely against Starfleet's ideals, like
Yes.
overturning random governments and infiltrating alien races that we aren't yet involved with. Give me weird off the books experimentation, um,
Yes.
rather than maybe what we're seeing more of at the moment.
Yeah, I agree actually, and R. Moldrake in the chat, your comments are I think spot on. Which is the problem with Section 31 is that it has gone beyond the point of an abstract idea; it's too crystallized. He followed that up with it was a black ops organization in the theme, which is what you were saying. Show me the
Yeah,
weird stuff, and
yeah,
I think yes, I would be on board with that. If Section 31 was Star Trek X Files,
yeah,
that could be
exactly.
something I could get on board with that. I
Yeah.
could get on board with that. But anyway, back to this. The episode of Imposter, we also learned that the changelings have evolved.
Mm.
We now know why. What I'm interested in your thoughts on Star Trek Picard leaning very heavily into Deep Space Nine territory
Mm.
with only one Deep Space Nine character involved. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, that's another aspect that took a second to get used to because in my head, everyone was very far. Everyone that we're seeing, apart from Worf, obviously, was very far removed from it.
Mm,
Uh, and but then there are. So I've been rewatching the movies now that the 4K restorations are out, and
yeah,
there is obviously references to it in Insurrection, and I think there are passing references in Nemesis as well.
there are those.
Um,
Yes, yeah,
so which then made me feel a little bit more easy about what we're seeing here because
yeah,
you saw all the characters being aware of it.
yeah,
But I know what you mean. It does it for a second. It feels like they're tying up someone else's conflict.
yeah. A little
um,
bit. Yes, yes. And I should caveat this with saying like this is not where these are mild critiques, mild criticisms,
hmm.
and like I mean I doubt anyone from the show is watching, but I've had people on my
Hi
show
Terry,
from the show.
please be watching.
Hi Terry. But I have thoroughly enjoyed season 3, and I am enjoying this, but it's an interesting. My thing is it's an interesting idea. We're going to tie TNG to the Dominion because we never saw it, and
Yeah,
I was always curious. Anytime the Deep Space Nine battles were going on, I'm like, all right,
where's the Enterprise?
where's the Enterprise?
Yeah,
Where is it? Damn it! And they never show it. And I was like, I would have loved a big one episode where the TNG crew on the Enterprise E comes swooping in and they help with the Defiant for an episode or
yeah.
something like that. That would have been cool, but it never happened.
I think so. My understanding of it is that I think the want and the need to do it was there from the casts and the writers,
Uh,
but kind of in the Berman era, the
mm,
producers were very much no, you're this show, you're this show. You know, you're the next gen thing. You're finishing. You're going theatrical. You're Deep Space Nine. You're on a
yes,
station. You're Voyager. You're going over here.
yes,
Never shall you really, apart from Reg Barclay, meet.
yes. That's right. That's right. It's true. TV was so weirdly like binary
Yeah,
back in the 90s and stuff.
connectivity just does not exist.
Yeah, it's very funny to me that because I remember I have to bring it up every episode, but I love Smallville. As you can see back there, Clark Kent. I will never forget the fact that they said they would never
Yes.
put Tom Welling as Superman in the show, but there was also the conflict of them saying towards the end of Smallville, we're not going to see it because Henry Cavill was coming out as Superman.
Yeah.
And I was like, Smallville ended in 2011. Henry Cavill didn't come out till 2013. It would have been fine. It
Yeah.
would have been fine. That's one of the most underwhelming finales
There
of
were
all
some
time.
very, well, still to this day, until only really now, there have been some very strange rules within
Yeah.
DC about what you can use in different mediums. The
Yes.
amount of bat adjacent shows. exist because you can use Bat adjacent characters, but not the Batman.
Yes,
It's very strange,
it
very strange.
is.
But I
I don't
think we're
like it.
finally moving past that.
Yeah,
Thankfully, Star Trek is
I'm glad.
miles ahead.
Yeah. Yes, I'm very glad. Yeah, so that was, it was interesting, the bringing the changeling, evolving the changelings. Um, do you think, knowing what we know now, do you, what's your opinion on these evolved changelings, these ones that can replicate human DNA and
Mm.
blood, and even post death can still hold that shape, because they are essentially a science experiment, sort of a, not a chimera, but a Frankenstein changeling sort of situation.
I'm glad we got the context to it. I
Mm,
needed that. I definitely needed the context.
yeah.
I couldn't quite, other than just headcanon and narrative leap, see how we could get from where they were at the end of DS9 to how they were now.
Yes.
It didn't feel like enough time has passed that you would be able to, without some sort of third party involvement or tech,
Yes.
be able to evolve that far from where they were to where they are now. Uh,
Yes.
Unless there was going to be some kind of story that was, you know, after the Starfleet virus and all of that, that they were just so angry that all they have done in the last 30 years is work to take revenge. But
Yes.
clearly, we're not looking at the entire changeling species. We're looking at a very small subset and a floating head that we still don't know who it is.
Yes, I am very curious about this floating head. Who, you have any speculations on who this floating head might be? Because even by
I'm
episode 8, we still don't know. So if we talk
Yeah,
about it now, it's fine.
yeah. I really don't know. I, f- I part of me really wants it to be someone that we know, but then I don't know who that should be. Like, I don't want it to be the Borg Queen because I feel like we've done that, parked
She's
that season
done.
two.
God, she's
I know
done.
some people feel like it could be the Borg because the head always speaks in. It doesn't speak in the first person. It's always we or
But
us.
the changelings did that.
Yeah,
The link did that a lot.
yeah. So I just don't know who it could be.
Do
Other
you
than
think
potentially, oh no, I know we've been talking about who might be behind the red door. I don't know whether that's the same person or not.
mm, that, because it's weird that they know. It's weird that the head knows,
Yeah.
and that Vadic knows intimately about Jack Crusher. So
Yes.
it does feel like, is this even a changeling behind it?
That's the thing. Yeah, is it? It might not be. It
Yeah.
could be somebody who is just pulling changeling strings.
Yes.
There was, I can't remember the exact phraseology of it, but when we last saw the head and it was controlling Vadik and made her lose some of her form,
Mm,
the wording of the dialogue was about you and your evolved physiology,
yes.
not
Yes.
us. It
Yes.
was you,
Yeah.
which so it's clearly not one of the changelings from the vials.
Right.
It's some it he she whatever it is something else.
Yes. Yeah. I the only, if it was a changeling, the only changeling I could consider it being would be the, for better or worse, the lady changeling from Deep Space Nine. I can't remember her name. Did she
Yeah,
have a name? I don't know if
I'm
she
not
did.
sure that she did have a name, did she? She was just
Yeah.
the sort of the de facto leader.
She was just the founder, one of the
Yeah,
founders. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was like some rogue founder, like that one. But why the demonic voice?
Mm.
Why the weird floaty gaseous ghostly, hint hint, like like
I love
form?
that. I love that.
Yeah.
There was another changeling as well that I've seen the theory bounded around a few times. I'm going to forget the name of the episode, but the Deep Space Nine episode where Odo does meet another changeling, and
Mm.
it's one of the other changelings who was sent away from the Great Link, like
Yes.
him.
Yes.
It was kind of an episode that played on racism in a way that he was very
Mm.
anti-human and very anti-solid, and
Yes.
then he went off just exploring the rest of the galaxy by himself to be some kind of changeling supremacist. So again, there's a theory that maybe this person has come back and said, you tried to wipe out my people. I watched from afar. I'm going to come and wipe you out in return.
That's an
And would have far
interesting.
more connection to Odo and Deep Space Nine characters than anyone from TNG.
Yes, that's true. I think that's one of the things that lingers in the back of my mind. It's like how much I miss Odo. and how
Yeah.
sad I am that Renee is no longer with us to be able to, because I mean, my God, he would be killing it. Because
Yes.
if he was alive, there's no way that he wouldn't be one of the main characters on this show. There's just no way. And my God, wouldn't that be awesome? That's why I'm kind of like, if we at least had someone like Kira, someone
Yeah.
from Deep Space Nine to because we got Voyager. We've had multiple Voyager cameos now, not just cameos, but you have 7 of 9 plus Tuvok, who Tuvok stroke not Tuvok
Yeah.
has been there. So I'm like, oh, come on, give us something, give us something. But do you think we'll go there?
Ooh.
Towards Deep Space Nine, towards Wormhole, towards the Great Link.
So Jack, so I literally just rewatched episode 8 before I logged in with you. And Jack does say,
You mention it.
yeah,
You did mention it, and so I was like,
yes,
But then if we're going towards, but it's complicated. It's like we're going to Frontier Day. Where's that? That's Earth.
yeah,
To get from Earth to Deep Space Nine is not quick.
yeah.
That would be weeks of traveling at light speed.
And we only have 2 episodes left to do it.
And we're like, yeah, exactly. So unless it's like 2 weeks later, I sadly don't
Odo. Did you see that Odo was in Prodigy? He's in an episode of Prodigy.
No, I didn't.
So there's spoilers for anybody that's not watched it, but there is a brilliant episode called Kobayashi Maru where the kids do the Kobayashi Maru on the holodeck.
Yeah.
And it's been updated, and it's now the bridge of the Enterprise D. So you get to see the Enterprise D in the full 3D CGI animation. Nice. And they used, so Gates McFadden came back and did some new dialogue as Edge Crusher in her TNG era uniform.
Nice.
But you also had, so they used archive dialogue to use Odo and Spock and Uhura.
Oh, cool.
I've got a feeling was Scotty in it as well. But basically they used a whole load of archive audio to bring these characters back, and Odo was there, and it was really wonderful to see, because obviously it's not like a live action deep fake. It was just fully animated and just using classic dialogue of him, and it was lovely to see.
No, that's good. I will have to watch that episode. I didn't know they did that. I've completely missed that. The last thing with Imposter, Gangster Vulcan. That was really interesting to me. There was a moment where I'm like, no, this doesn't make sense. And then when he started talking, I was like, oh no, I buy that. Because then I was thinking, like, of course, there's got to be bad Vulcans. Like, then I started thinking about it more. It's like, yeah. There's got to be bad Vulcans. They can't all be like perfectly nice, good, logical, people. Also, I mean, Sarek was kind of a dickhead to Spock.
Yep.
So they clearly can be jerks.
I love the it was Kirk Acevedo, wasn't it? And just that voice, the second I heard the voice, was like, oh,
yeah,
brilliant casting, brilliant casting.
I loved that. And what do you think of the Worf Raffi relationship?
I think they are brilliant. They are dynamite. Yeah, they're so good together. It's nice to see Worf being a little bit more comic relief. It doesn't feel like he's a million miles away from Worf. And I don't feel like they've played him for laughs with this whole I'm now pacifist carrying around a knife. I love the kind of overreaction to that from when the trailer came out. I love his character. I love Old Worf. Old Worf is amazing.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a big Worf fan.
Would never have paired the two of them up thinking about the cast, but it's worked really well.
It makes sense because I think Raffi is she's one of the few characters in the Picard series that I've always struggled to connect with. I don't know why. I have genuinely struggled with Raffi, and this is, I should caveat this by saying, like, this is nothing against like the actors or anything like that. If anyone, I always get annoyed when you like talk about a character and they're like, you're being mean to the actors. I'm not talking about the character. I'm about the character. I struggle to connect with her, but her paired with Worf, I think works so much better than what we've seen previously, because they bring so much like crazy vengeful energy.
Yes,
because they're both just out for blood. Worf, I always love watching old episodes because Worf he's always ready to go. He's always ready to kill. That is Worf, always, even now. Yep. He's still like that despite his pacifism excuses. So I think them bouncing off each other has made me warm to her way more than I have those first 2 seasons, because she's running so hot all the time, and like
Yeah.
Worf didn't run hot all the time. He would simmer down a little bit, and I think these two are that have worked so well together. It's made me appreciate that character way more than I did in the first 2 seasons. I think very clever pairing, smart pairing. I think if she was on the Titan and they were doing the Seven of Nine Raffi
Yeah.
stuff, I'd be like, that line with Worf at 7 and the "Are you coming with us?" Good,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad you're not.
She's a very Raffi's a very different type of character for Trek.
Yes.
She's almost like your I'm thinking back to that episode of really early days TNG with the alien race that were all completely strung out on the drugs that the people on the opposite planet were
Oh
kind of
yes.
drip feeding them. She's
Yes.
that kind, like, addiction isn't really something that you ever saw tackled with a lead character in like TNG era Trek. So
Yeah.
to sort of
Yeah.
plop her into Picard and have her have that huge relationship with him that we never saw, I
Yeah.
think does make you step back for a second to go, oh, hang on, I kind of want to have seen that first. Like,
Yes.
give me their relationship before I'm
Yeah.
seeing them not getting on because she's upset with him for being kicked out of Starfleet.
Yeah. Yes.
But
Yeah.
I warmed to her quite quickly. I think Michelle Hurd's a brilliant actress, and I think
She
she's
is.
done a really brilliant job with it. But this has been season 3 has been her best material of the 3 seasons by far.
Yeah. Yeah. It's for me. It has elevated the character to a point like, oh wow, I'm buying you now, whereas I had struggled previously. But yeah, no, very good casting. Should we chat about the bounty?
The bounty, yeah.
The bounty, it's a bounty of member berries, but you know what? I don't care. Sometimes when there's too many, I'm like, come on, dial it back. But this is one time where I'm just like, give them all to me. Give
Yeah.
me all the member berries. We'll talk about the Fleet Museum in a minute, but we're at this point we're starting to get an idea of Jack and his visions and the glowing
Yeah.
eyes, and I mean, what were your initial thoughts on Jack and this issue? I mean, the Uromatic syndrome. Picard never did that.
Yes.
So
He absolutely never did do that. I always felt like from the beginning there was something about Jack that it was going to take it off on a tangent that wasn't just you've picked up. I early on I thought he's gonna have inherited some issues from his dad here,
yeah,
genetically, and not just the fact that he might lose his hair. But then, this is probably my biggest bugbear with the season is I just feel like I want to know, and I feel like, do we really need just 2 episodes left? Because it's either got to be so big that it really took what could be 8.5, 9 episodes to tell us what's really going on, or it has to be earth shattering at this point, and that's the only bit that I'm like, you still need to convince me that all of the red door and this strange visions, as much as the effects are very cool, that there's a real reason why this is the story you chose to tell.
Yes, yeah,
If
I
anything,
agree.
actually, sorry, while I think of it, the kind of the way I saw it going from the beginning was that it would turn out he was a changeling and that their actual son was really their son, but he had been killed. And that by the end of the season, what both Crusher and Picard would have to deal with is not only the fact that they'd spent 20 odd years apart and that she never told him that he had a son, but then the chasm between them would be, not only did you never tell me I had a son, but my son had died and I got to know this shell pretending to be him. I never got to meet the real him and see who he was.
Yeah. Oh, that would be really intense. That is crazy dark.
Apparently, that's where most of my ideas go, is crazy dark.
They go into the darkness. I love that. No, that actually is really fascinating. That could have been something, but I guess we have the Riker. Riker has planted his flag in the dead child camp. So I guess they probably wouldn't do that twice. But I that could have added some in. You could have changed it, obviously. That could have been an interesting dynamic. Yeah, we'll talk about a little bit more what my speculation is when we get to the eighth episode 8. But at this point in time, I'm thinking it's definitely not the disease that Picard
Yeah.
has. That doesn't make any sense. But I'm like, is it Borg related? Is it
Hmm.
what in the world could it be? But at this point, I'm ruling Borg out entirely.
Yeah.
Also, Borg is a little overplayed. We've had 2 seasons of Picard which are very Borg heavy,
Yeah.
and I don't know if we would want a 3rd season to then reveal, oh, Borg again.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe
There
not.
was one stray nanoprobe left inside you that got passed into into your unborn son in the
I
womb,
mean,
and here he is.
yeah, that's the thing. It's like with Picard. I mean, I guess he. I mean, I always wondered how much did they actually get out of him.
Yeah.
What was left inside, because we do get a glimpse of Picard's corpse, and there is a shadow that is very much Locutus-esque. If you remember, at
Yeah.
the end of this episode, we actually see it, because they go to Daystrom and they find out what was actually stolen from Daystrom. Because the point that we've in the season so far is that Vadic is stolen. First, it's stolen this teleporter, but then that was a disguise because they stole something else, something more valuable. What was that thing? And it turns out, spoiler, that it was Picard's body. And then when they see on the screen what it is, as the form comes into clarity, there's
Yeah.
this weird
Shadow.
Locutus shadow on his head. And I'm like, what? Yeah, what could still, and also in First Contact, he can still hear the Borg.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like something must still be inside him that's Borg related. And I was like, well, maybe that's it. But again, Borg never did what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there is something. I know we've not used the word in any of the episodes or in the last 2 episodes where Jack has talked about it, but he does
Mhm.
link with other people,
He does.
which then, he is linking with them. Great link, changeling. Is there something about, maybe it could be a post-Borg thing, post being in the collective, that is like a link that the changelings want because
Mm.
they've lost their connection? I don't know. I feel like there's a deeper meaning in here somewhere, and I guess it's about to become very clear very quickly.
We have to hope. We
Given
have to hope.
where the end of episode 8 leaves us.
Yes. Yes.
But this is the biggest unknown for me. This is the bit that I can't really feel comfortable with what I think is going on, which is
Yes.
fine. I'm not criticizing that.
No.
But it's the bit that I'm slightly unsure of, and it's the bit that I don't know where it's leading me.
Yeah. This is the thing that the reveal has to be great. This reveal, more than anything so far, has to stick the landing. Because if it doesn't stick the landing, then I think it will. That could leave a lot of people disappointed, and you don't want that this late in the game. So
Yeah.
Terry and them, they must have a lot of faith in this. And I haven't really been. I wouldn't say that I've been disappointed with any episode and any reveal so
God, no.
far. So my hope is that they will continue to deliver, because I do feel that episode after episode they have delivered the goods.
I'm amazed that I don't get more messages on a Thursday telling me that I'm some kind of Paramount shill, because I have given every episode this season 5 stars.
Yes, yes.
The whole thing, every week, just 5 stars every week, because I can't fault it.
This is interesting to me, and this I don't, this could be a fun conversation maybe. But it is this sense that Picard 3, it appears to me to have brought fans together
Yeah.
in a way that none of the other shows have been able to accomplish. And I don't think that is just down to bringing back the TNG cast. I think it's down to the writing is, in my opinion, it's the strongest Trek writing we've had in a while. There are, there's not sort of glaring plot holes. There's not kind of too much wistfulness. There's not a lot of kind of crying and feeling pathetic. Um, which I'm not saying you can't cry. Obviously, yes, you can cry. But when you think about old Trek, and I'm not saying that old Trek and this Trek isn't the same Trek. I'm saying when you think about the old stuff, um, the casts were way more militant. It was more military. There wasn't time. You might see a character getting teary-eyed and emotional, but they still have to like get their job done. There's explosions going off. You're being attacked. You don't have time to mourn your friend who's over there, kind of thing. And there's also not a lot of what I kind of attribute to like what I call like Gilmore Girls kind of dialogue, where it's kind of spitfire, rapid, quirky dialogue. You don't really have a lot of that in the old stuff. Whereas some of the new stuff, they lean a bit too much, and it's a more modern kind of television writing thing that wasn't really around when old Trek was
the era, isn't it?
Yeah. And so I think those things which were in most of the new stuff and in seasons 1 and 2 not being in this, I think helps. I do think it helps. And I'm all for comedy. I mean, Worf in TNG was hilarious. The prune juice stuff, the eating the eggs, eating Riker's disgusting eggs. He was always very funny. And Q was hilarious. There was a ton of humor in Trek. So I'm not saying you can't have humor, you can't have witty dialogue. You absolutely can, but measured.
Yeah.
Measured.
Right balance, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think this has done that. And I think that might be, I could just be talking my ass, I don't know. But I think that might be partly what is attributing to more people coming together on this a little bit.
Yeah, I think and you've already touched on it, but the time period as well. I think
moving forward,
we've seen Kirk being retreaded in theatrical with J.J. Abrams, which is great, but is just retreading plot points and kind of playing on the nostalgia factor, just in a big action movie style.
Yeah,
Discovery, I enjoy seasons 1 and 2, but I think that show massively hits its stride once it lets go of all of that past prequelness and hits the future and does its own thing.
Yes.
Because then all the characters shine through and it does new stuff. Totally. It's almost like Voyager when they hit the Delta Quadrant. It explores something that we haven't, we're in a familiar part of space, but we're exploring it in a completely different time period. So everything is an unknown. And it goes back to that idea of, where no one has gone before.
Yes.
No one has gone to the 32nd century and spent too much time there before. So I do think there is something about focusing on present through to the future. And I know the Starfleet Academy show is going to be 32nd century as well, because they haven't formally said it, but in the brief log line that Paramount Plus put out when they announced the pickup for the show, it says it will focus on Starfleet Academy opening for the first time in 100 years. So there's no way that's now Picard now. That's Discovery now.
Right.
So I think there is something about tapping into the fact that people want to see what happens next, not what might have happened in between before.
Sure.
And again, I'm not knocking it, because I will. I've realized, I guess I am a bit of a Star Trek shill in a way, but I am that guy. I mean, Picard is probably going to be this is going to be one of my favorite seasons of Trek of all time.
Easily.
Whichever Trek is the one that is currently airing on TV is the one where I'm going, my God, this is my favorite Trek.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's new episodes of Discovery. This is my favorite Star Trek.
Right.
Lower Decks is on. This is my favorite Star Trek. Prodigy's on. This is my favorite Star Trek.
Yes. I'd say when they announced a Starfleet show, I wasn't excited.
I don't quite. I want to know more about it. I want to know, are we doing... Because obviously we've got the kids show, we've got Prodigy, that is very much, the Nickelodeon audience.
Yes.
Are we now talking about, like...
We're talking CW. I think we're talking CW Star Trek.
Yeah, is this CW Star Trek? In which case, I'm interested to see how it would work. But you need to sell me on your what it's going to be.
And just to clarify, because this isn't me shitting on current Trek stuff. You show me any Starfleet Academy based episode from TNG and Deep Space Nine, and it's the worst episode. Like Wesley Crusher doing his stupid test. I don't care about that episode. Wesley Crusher and his friends get into trouble when they're doing their little, demonstration stuff.
And it's not Tom Paris, but it is Tom Paris.
You know what? You know what blew my mind? Why did they not just make that Tom Paris?
I know. I can't remember what was his name. I can't remember the character's name in that episode.
That would have made so much sense.
But yeah, just keep the name.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't. When I saw that, and I was like, wait, it's Tom Paris, but he's not Tom Paris.
Yeah.
Voyager just should have said, okay, we've seen him like a couple of minutes ago on TNG. People are going to recognize him from that episode. Just make him the same guy. It's fine.
It's like when Freema Agyeman appeared in the season 2 finale of Doctor Who.
Yes.
Before being cast as Martha, she then is Martha in season 3, and they're like, oh yeah, my cousin that looked a lot like me died during that battle with the Daleks.
Oh my God, yes, that's right. I forgot about that. Yes.
We're to explain away the same actress.
Yes, we're being told.
Oh, no way.
Armoldra, yes, it was royalty issues of Paris. Interesting.
Oh, did not know that. There you go. Thank you for schooling me on that one.
There is always an explanation.
But what was his name in that episode? Because I can't IMDb it fast enough.
Yeah, someone look for someone, because I don't want to do it either.
I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue and I just can't quite.
Yeah,
I want to say Jellicoe, but it's definitely not Jellicoe. That would be the Admiral.
Yes, I remember like big episode stories. I always struggle to remember the small bits and names. Terrible with names. If it's not a main character, I really don't remember. Like Quark's cousin, I remember the actor, remember how he is and what he does, but I'm like, I don't remember his name. What's his name? I don't know. The guy who's played by that one guy who plays 40,000 other characters in Star Trek. It's the guy who plays Wayun. It's that guy. He plays
of course,
yeah. He's everyone in Star Trek. Okay, back to the bounty. Let's chat Daystrom for a second.
Yep, I was just thinking. I want to know what you thought about Easter eggs.
Yes, this is where the Easter eggs really kick off.
Yes,
we're walking through Daystrom. We get our first reveal of Moriarty. Which, what are your thoughts on that moment? They're walking through. They're seeing the crow. Where do you think it's going?
So soon as the music struck up, I knew that was Pop Goes the Weasel. I got it straight away. I was like, we are going back to the holodeck and Encounter at Farpoint. He's going to whistle, and we're full circling back to Encounter at Farpoint. And I just thought that's just so that. And at that point, I was like, okay, so this is who we're going to tie up with here. If this is Pop Goes the Weasel, then there's only one person that Moriarty is protecting here.
Yes.
I think my first thought when I saw Moriarty was he hasn't actually aged in 30 years.
Well, they kept that light really dim.
True, they did.
It was backlit, and his face was dark. It's like those like glossy lenses in TOS when they have the older ladies put the Vaseline on the lens.
It was a cool idea. It was a neat idea just to bring back a character that was so omnipresent in TNG.
Yes, I even though he didn't come back in the way that I thought he was going to, that little brief moment that we had with him, I was like, this is wonderful. I quite liked it. But I did assume Data in my original notes, which aren't on this pad. These are my consolidated notes. When the black bird dropped, I was like, oh, that's Data. That's Data from that episode where he was dreaming about the bird. Yeah. I was like, so we're heading towards Data. We're not heading towards Moriarty, which was interesting. There were so many other Easter eggs. I guess everyone knows them now. There's the Genesis machine, which is in there. What do we think about the people were like, there can't be another Genesis machine, but I was thinking about it. And like, yes, one was destroyed one was used in two were used, I guess, in Wrath of Khan. But I'm almost positive that in TNG they talked about terraforming.
Yeah, they do.
They must have still been using Genesis or something like Genesis to terraform.
There is definitely terraforming that went on in TNG, so the technology was around still.
Yeah. So my question is, why would the Genesis probe be what is it doing in Daystrom? Is it just a relic, or is it a weapon, or did they take Genesis science and that's how they perfected terraforming 80 odd years later when we're in TNG era? Maybe
So is it there as an antique more than anything else?
Yes, because they seem to have a lot of antiques, and other antiques they had were Kirk's remains.
Yeah.
What did we think of Kirk's remains?
It made me kind of sad when I rewatched Generations recently, because I love that moment where Picard buries the body. It seems so...
Wait, when Picard hauls William Shatner's body up to a mountaintop,
yeah, and just
where there
covers
were
him in
no
rocks.
rocks.
But there's something like in that moment. I think Picard was just trying to honor this fallen comrade that he's in that moment. So it seemed to begin with, I was like, it's really sad that someone then went and hauled his body up, and then I thought, well, that seems like something Section 31 would do.
Yes. Well, I mean, that is exactly what happens. We have the book The Return, kind of written by William Shatner.
I've never read that book. I really should.
I have read most of it, and most of it is really good. It is connected to the idea is that it really takes place right after Star Trek VII. Kirk, Picard and Beverly, and I think Warfront, kind of like a Black Ops sort of mission. Basically, they found like a sort of Borgish outpost, and there's some nonsense going on with that. And I think there's some Romulans involved, and they have. It's interesting because there are bits of it that you kind of think. I was thinking, oh, this is a bit like Picard season 1. There's Romulans and Borgs involved, and they're kind of connected to each other, and they basically use Borg science to revive Kirk, to bring him back to life, so he doesn't die. And then over the course of the novel, he he's brainwashed and isn't quite there, but is slowly regaining who he is while also being used as a weapon. So it's a mixture of like William Shatner probably thought, I don't want to die that way. Hey, use those robot people to bring me back to life. And so they've done that, which but it is fun, and it does feel like Trek. And as I was reading, I was like, you know what, I don't actually mind this as a continuation, like headcanon. I'm like, I can accept this into my head, as this is what really happened. Sure, why not? And I sort of suppose, like, I guess, would they leave Kirk's body? But the thing is, in the text, it does mention Project Phoenix or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, why? We spoke briefly in relation to Odo about this, but do we think we're heading towards, Tarkin Kirk?
It's not a thought that crossed my mind. I let it go and just thought that's a thing that could be used in future if they ever wanted to bring William Shatner back whilst he's still with us.
Yes. Yes.
Or in animated form. Maybe there's a Kirk that's going to be running around in Lower Decks or turn up in Prodigy or somewhere. Maybe Kirk is teaching at Starfleet Academy in the 32nd century.
Wouldn't that be something?
My headcanon at the time went to a place of Picard obviously had to write up a report on what happened on Viridian 3 and happened to mention that he disappeared off into an alternate dimension and brought back the long thought dead Captain Kirk. And they went, we might need him one day. Get that. That. Put it on ice.
Yes.
Because one day we might need that.
If I'm not mistaken, and I might be, someone else would need to go back and get a clearer look at the text. I think that they say the body was found in critical condition.
Oh.
I think I might be wrong, but I was trying to read it, and I could have swore that I read critical condition. I'm like, that's not dead. No. And also, the sound effects that they use are the sick bay sound effects when there's like a body on the table being monitored.
Yeah.
Suggesting vital signs are being read. So I'm like, is he dead? Have they just literally had him on ice for 30, 40 years? Like, is he really dead? What are they going to do with this? That was a big Easter egg.
Yeah.
That was a big Easter egg to drop because it raised so many questions.
And I know Terry's been asked about it quite a lot this week.
Yes.
And the only quote that I've seen was him saying, "Look, I wasn't leading this anywhere unless he's, fibbing and Kirk's about to show up." Maybe they just unfreeze him for Frontier Day every decade.
Some sort of Futurama-esque
thing. But what
he
said was he felt like it was just a thing he wanted to do that they threw in, and it can exist in however you want it to exist. It could be used in future if you want to use it in future, or it could just be an Easter egg that sits there for the rest of time.
Yeah, no, very, very true. It was interesting. I was fascinated by that. And I'm curious to see what they do with it. I would love for it to just be an Easter egg that's sitting there, but that's too big of a thing. Someone at some point in time will be like, "Oh yeah, that was in that one episode. We need to dig up Kirk. Let's dig him up." It will happen, and depending on how it's done, will determine if it was worth it or not. Biffer the Hobbit in the chat says, "Hey Luke, happy Easter." Hi Biffer, happy Easter. Oh, and R. Moldrake says,
Locarno. That was it. Locarno
character.
Yeah.
That one really bad episode of TNG.
I must be very nearly at. So I'm rewatching TNG at the moment. I really, really failed in this mission when season 2 ended. It's like, right, I'm going to rewatch TNG from the beginning right through Picard season 1 and 2, movies included, ready for season 3. And I'm nearly at the Locarno episode, so I'm struggling. And
what season is that then?
So I'm in 5 at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. We were watching TNG. I think we finished it. We finished it this year. I think last year was Deep Space Nine. We finished Deep Space Nine finally, and now we're on. Then we finished Next Generation just early at the beginning of the year, I think. Slowly on Voyager, but not really diving too hard into that at the moment. But yeah, Daystrom. So that's Daystrom. Daystrom was interesting.
Don't forget the warrior Tribble,
the crazy Tribble. Yeah, that was weird. I don't know how I felt about that one. Of all the ones, that was just absurd, but kind of funny.
But isn't it weird how that's the one that when your Trek brain goes, yep, Genesis, fine. Picard's body, fine. Kirk's body, fine. Tribble with teeth that's really pissed off. I'm not sure about that. Whoa, what are you doing?
I know, right? I know it is weird. It is weird. I think it subconsciously it might link back to Star Trek Into Darkness with the magical Tribble blood that brings Kirk back to life.
Of course.
And I'm just leave Tribbles alone. Leave Tribbles alone.
Yeah.
Because Tribbles in the what's the episode Deep Space Nine where they go back to the Tribbles episode? Trouble with Tribbles or Tribbles and Trials and Tribulations or something.
Trials and Tribulations.
That's it. That was great. I'm fine with that. At the end, when all the Tribbles are all over the station, it's fine. That's fun. But just the Tribble blood and the I think it's probably from that. Or I'm like, stop it with these Tribbles. Stop it. What else was in there that was fun in the in Daystrom? I can't remember. Those are kind of the big things I think that we saw.
Yeah, those were the biggest ones. Those were the ones that the camera really focused on to make sure you noticed.
Yes. Now we Picard and them, they're on the run from they're not necessarily on the run from Vadic. They're on the run from Starfleet. Starfleet are the ones who are after them now. And this is quite interesting. And again, I think this speaks to budget issues, maybe, because we are really only staying on the Titan. There's very, very few sets. There's the Titan set, Rios' ship for a little bit, and 10 Forward, and then the one Blade Runner planet where they killed the Ferengi and the what's his name? I can't remember.
Metallus Prime, named after Terry Metallus.
Metallus Prime. That's it. Metallus Prime. That's it. Yeah.
Which is actually, I think he introduced that, or it was introduced in honor of him, and I want to say in Enterprise.
I think so. I think it links back to So we've had very few sets, and we're not really seeing. We're seeing other ships, but we're not seeing the interiors of other ships. We're not seeing anything else, which is quite fascinating. But it's adding. I think it's adding to this sense of like they are alone in the
Yeah.
middle of the ocean
Yeah.
and they don't know who in the world to trust, which is I think a fun bit of tension to add to it, because in the TNG movies and other movies you're always with the baddies listening to them talk and all that kind of stuff. Here we're like, we don't know who's bad and good. Like,
Yes.
we
Yeah.
just see a ship and we just assume everyone on that ship is bad. But are they? They're probably not. There's probably good
Mm.
people on some of these ships. Um anyway, they go running. They've left they leave Riker and Worf and Raffi on Daystrom, who find a new Data. Well, we'll chat Data before we
Yep.
chat the Fleet Museum. What were your thoughts with this new Data?
I was glad that they found a way to work Brent in, because it
Mm,
wouldn't be right to not have him.
yeah.
And I think even if the writers felt they didn't have a great way to do it, the
Mm,
cast would have said, we need, like, it's all or nothing at this point.
yeah.
You've got to have him. He has to be there.
Yeah.
So I was nervous coming into it.
Mm,
I thought, I got the whole Law thing in the trailer. I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's how Brent's in it. We're going to see Law.
yeah.
And I think once you get to where we are at the end of 8, I think
Mm,
it's a really beautiful story.
mhm,
And I loved the line of dialogue. I realize I'm skipping ahead slightly, but there is a wonderful line of dialogue between Picard and the new version of Data, where he says to him, "The last time I spoke to you,
yeah.
you wished to die, and I
Yeah.
really hope that we haven't, basically undone all of that for you."
Yeah.
And I thought, firstly, brilliant piece of writing to
Yeah.
make sure that season 1 isn't just been walked all over, but
Yeah.
also, what an amazing thing to say,
Yes.
that
Yes.
he has so much respect for his friend, that he's not just, "I'm so happy to see you," but actually, "As happy as I am to see you, I'm
Yeah.
worried that we have doubled back on your wishes and that this is not the right thing for you." And
Yes. Yeah.
the way Brent has played it in this kind of 4 episodes that he's been in, wow.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I agree. It was, to me, when I saw it, I was like, you know what? This is, we have to explain, unless they're going to go to the time. And the thing is, I didn't like the de-aged Data in
Yeah,
season 1 of Picard, and that's just because the technology just isn't great in general. So that's nothing against. I like seeing Data, but I
yeah.
didn't like the look. Felt like CGI mesh. I'm like, so I like that they've sort of come up with. It might be a nonsensical explanation. Oh, I put Lauren Data in an old body. Like, you could have just put him in a younger body. Like, surely you'd make a young body, and that's what you would put him in. It's kind of like, well, why didn't you put Picard in a younger body? Well, because we're not going to go to the de-aging tech. That's too
Yeah.
expensive, and it doesn't make any sense. So I thought about it, and then I was like, I'm fine with it. It's fine. Like, how else are you going to bring Brent Spiner back and Data back? This is the way to do it. It just, and you're right. There are some great moments, some great lines of dialogue, some really moving bits
Mm.
between characters for sure. Which we'll get to that in a minute, because we'll talk about Dominion and then episode 8. Geordi and Data, those scenes I think are some of the best.
And
You
I
know,
feel like I mean, you could say this about any 2 of them being on screen together, but
mm,
how much can you feel
yeah,
all the time they spent together filming TNG in the movies, but then all the time they've spent together
yeah,
as friends, companions,
yeah,
family in the,
yeah.
20, 30 years since.
Yes, yeah. No, you feel it.
So
I think.
tangible.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. I think the thing that I always found kind of silly about some of the TNG movies is they, except for Generations, the other films kind of forget that Geordi and Data are the friends,
Mm,
are the best friend duo,
yeah,
where they kind of make it a Picard Data
yeah.
thing. And not that Picard doesn't like Data, but for a huge portion of TNG, Picard was very indifferent to Data. Despite his very rousing defensive Data in Measure of a Man.
Yeah.
There were many times where he's just sort of like, he's very sharp with Data. Data, stop it. Data, he's very, but that's very Picard. But towards, he does, he's not mean to him or anything. He's not what's that doctor's name for season 2? Her name's just jumped out of my mind.
Lasky.
Yes. Yeah. He's not mean like she is. She was just mean. I don't know why she had to be so mean to him. But yes, so I never really thought that.
She was trying to recreate the whole Spock Bones thing.
Yes.
Pulaski was just supposed to be more like Bones than Crusher was, but it just didn't work.
No, it really didn't. It was I'm glad. Great actor. She was in TOS, and but she just didn't fit TNG. I was pleased that they got Crusher back, which is a whole nother story. So what do you think about the fact that at the Fleet Museum we're seeing all the ships? This was like where we're overloading on the Easter eggs, and I didn't care. I love seeing the Enterprise A, Voyager, the Defiant I love the Defiant.
Yes.
There was a Romulan warbird there. There was so many great looking ships. The Klingon bird of prey, I knew straight away.
Yeah.
I was like, that's the bounty. That's the bounty. It made sense when we got there and I saw that ship and knew the title of the episode. I was like, holy moly. Did you think we were actually going to go on the bounty, though?
Yes, I did. I thought we would. I wonder whether there's a deleted scene somewhere of them going on that ship to take the cloaking device. Because I wanted to see that. I needed to see the LaForge sisters and Jack raiding a Klingon ship.
Yes. Yeah, I really wanted that. I was just mildly disappointed that didn't happen. I thought, we've got all these ships and we're not going on them. Go inside them.
All of them, yeah.
All of them. But you have a really lovely moment with Seven and Jack when they're talking about Voyager, and he's like, "What's that one?" Which I thought was a funny line. He was like, "What's that ship?" Because he doesn't recognize Voyager. But it puts Seven. I think. How have you found Seven throughout seasons 1 to 3 in general?
I thought they clearly underestimated how much of an impact she would have in season 1. I feel like they were working on season 1. She came in for a guest spot and they went, "What? Whoa, dynamite, more of this." Yeah. And that's why she then came back and was immediately like a recurring character and then main cast in season 2 onwards. I've really enjoyed seeing her. I think so. Voyager, I didn't really watch Voyager when it was on live. TNG was the one that I grew up watching live and watched most of Deep Space Nine. I lost Deep Space Nine towards the end because I hit teenagerdom and became a angry goth that just was in art club all the time. So I wasn't doing sci-fi, and then I came back to it. All of about 10 years later, and have been a diehard fan ever since. But Voyager, I kind of missed and came back to it as an adult. So I feel like I wasn't with Seven when it was the big thing. I've come to it late, but I have grown to absolutely love her.
Yes.
Also, claim to fame, I walked up the white carpet at the season 1 premiere of Picard right next to her in London. I was just like, Jerry Ryan.
That is a good claim to fame. I mean, she is amazing.
She is a firecracker. I love her. Over these 20 years, all of the snark and everything that you kind of saw snippets of in Voyager is just perfect.
Yes.
She's so well written by these guys.
Oh my gosh, yes. So what was interesting to me, and it took a bit of time, but I think, again, this is where I think season 3 and the way that they've perfected Raffi have also perfected Seven. Seven didn't act like Seven for me in seasons 1 and 2. She was. It was an interesting choice of how the character was reinterpreted, 20 years later. And not to say that she wasn't, that Jerry Ryan wasn't acting well. Jerry Ryan is a terrific actor. She's wonderful. But in the way that Raffi, I think, has come into her own in season 3, I feel like I'm actually looking at Seven at an evolved version of Seven.
Yeah.
Where there's a much better balance between Seven being a little bit Borgy, but have regained her humanity.
Yeah.
And I guess that was one of the big criticisms of mine of Voyager is she never really she never really regained her humanity in the way
She
that,
didn't, did she?
yeah, she was always very emotionless, cold, Spock-esque.
Yeah.
We already have a Vulcan on board. Like, Tim Russ is the perfect Vulcan. You're fine
Mm,
with your emotionless individual. You don't need two. Let's see her grow. And so she didn't grow a lot, and I think they maybe overstretched the growth with the first couple of seasons. But the balance that she has in 3 is like, oh, this is perfect. This is 7 to 30 years later, or
yeah.
not 30 years later, 20 years later. So
I
she
think in
is
season
really
one,
good.
season one is a very angry version of her.
Yes.
You feel in season one like I guess you almost see a little bit of it in the first episode of this season, where she kind of says, it was you and Janeway that made me join Starfleet, and now I'm angry at you for making me do that. But in
Yes.
season one, she just seems angry to have been rejected. It's almost like she's been rejected by everyone and everything, and that's how she ended up with the Fenris Rangers.
Yes.
And I know we had to tie that to losing Echep, and that was very much a sort
Mm.
of maternal bond that she had with him.
Yes.
So it feels like season one, she is still the very, very cold Voyager-esque-ish version. The only thing that's really changed is she's more angry.
Yeah.
And then in season two, you've obviously got the relationship with Raffi, and you're exploring. I think they almost give her a bit more of a spark of humanity when they do the whole losing of all the Borg implants, and she sees herself as almost like
Yes.
she's seeing herself human for the first time.
Yes.
And from there, I feel like she grows a lot more.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you. This is the most balanced version we now have of her.
Yes. Yeah. I never did you ever read the comic where Brendan Braga wrote a comic with 7 of 9, sort of taking place right after Voyager's return.
Oh,
And
interesting. No.
it's very, very, very similar to season 2 of Picard. There is the Borg come to the Federation pretending to be like friends and stuff like there's a lot of
Okay.
similarities from that
Wow.
comic that are in this, except in the comic, spoiler alert, do you want me to spoil it?
Go for it.
Okay. In the comic, the ultimate sacrifice that 7 actually dies.
Oh,
But
wow. Okay.
but there were bits in that comic where they were like, well, we're not going to let you into Starfleet. So I think they clearly took a lot of inspiration from that particular thing. My thought with that was like, I never really bought that Starfleet would have turned 7 away.
Yeah.
That to me doesn't sound like Starfleet. I mean, we've got Klingons in Starfleet, we've got Ferengi in Starfleet, there's other people, there's half Romulans in Starfleet, I mean, Saavik was half Romulan, there I could buy them. She's been with this crew for what, 5 out of the 7 years or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you wouldn't just turn this person away. She seems very vital, especially to understanding Borg and I mean, God, Picard. He was a Borg for a minute. Like,
Yeah.
come on, you
Yeah.
wouldn't turn 7 away.
It's interesting. I wasn't aware of that comic book, but have you so when Disco was first kind of happening, they tied up all of the novels that had been at the time the canon idea of what would happen next. There are hundreds of novels
Yes.
that essentially were treated as canon until Disco.
Yes.
And then with this whole revival of Trek on TV, that series of novels and that canon was brought to an end with a weird kind of multiverse story.
Yes.
But in the first, so I haven't read all of the novels that go back. I read the trilogy that ended it, and now I'm like, oh, I need to go back and read these because these are excellent. But again, the plot thread there is that she is basically turned away. I think she's allowed to do some teaching at the academy as a specialist, and that's as close as she gets.
Huh.
So it seems like that's very much an idea that is stuck in many different versions of Star Trek, that she would be turned away for some reason.
Yeah, it's a weird one, and I don't buy it. I don't buy it in any of the medias. They wouldn't turn 7 away.
So then there's the Star Trek Picard Stargazer comic book that goes between seasons 2 and 3. It's only a 3-issue miniseries, but is very much some of her transition from Fenris into Starfleet.
Oh, interesting.
And how Picard is involved. Can't remember. I don't think you see Janeway. Again, there's passing mentions.
Right. Yes, yeah, it's interesting, but I do love. I have to admit, I love what we're getting with Seven now, and Seven and Shaw. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but what a duo! I mean, give us that show. Why they didn't announce? Why they didn't announce a show yesterday on First Contact
I
Day?
know.
What a
I know.
ridiculous! What a
Yeah.
ridiculous thing! What a ridiculous thing! I every once in a while you got to wonder if certain individuals at in the high towers do they really have their finger on the pulse of what fans want? Like, they
I
really?
hope so. I truly hope so because it's so. I mean, you can see you only have to look at Twitter every Thursday when the episodes drop in America to
Yep.
see how much people are like, please,
Yes.
just give Terry more.
Yes. Thursday to Sunday,
Yeah,
Star Trek Legacy is trending almost nonstop.
yeah.
Almost nonstop.
And then Monday you have to deal with the episode photos for the next episode, and you're
Yes.
like, what do all of these random still images mean? Is
Exactly.
coming.
Exactly. Oh man, it's great. It's great. Yeah. What did you think? Last thing we'll talk about with Daystrom, and then we can chat 7 and 8 because there's a lot to talk. There's a lot to talk about with 8, and not as much with 7, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Geordi being reluctant to help Picard.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
That was a bit of a bitter pill to swallow, wasn't it? Because you're so used to them all just being there for each other constantly.
Yeah.
I think it's just another nice wrinkle and just another layer of texture to this 30 years that we've not been party to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, what did pass between them other than Geordie's really pedestrian taste in wine?
I love that. I love that everyone's kind of shitting on Picard's wine.
I know.
It's really funny to me because here's the thing. This is where my nerd brain gets in the way sometimes. I'm like, Picard wouldn't. I know that he was on his stupid vineyard in the best of both worlds, but retired Picard would be doing archaeology.
He would be, yeah.
He would be doing. He doesn't care about wine. He might be doing the wine. He might be having that done, but he would be doing archaeology. Come on, guys.
He's off with Vash somewhere.
Yes,
digging something up.
Absolutely,
She's behind the door. It's Vash.
That would be mental.
Or Dr. Pulaski. She's annoyed at Crusher. She wants her job back.
What's funny, Vash is probably because she went off with Q, so maybe she's become a Q and she's behind it all.
She's annoyed that Picard gave Q a happy ending in season 2. Uh-oh. Oh, I shouldn't have mentioned it, should I?
You shouldn't have mentioned season 2. Q. My writer brain kicks in when I watch a lot of this stuff, and this is partly where I struggle. It's nerd brain and writer brain. Q made no sense the entire season. If I had to go back and rewatch it and point it all, I could, but I just remembered thinking he's doing random things without any real sense of explanation. There wasn't a real good explanation as to why he sent them back to that particular point in time, why he wanted Picard to deal with his ancestor, whatever her name was, and also why would a Q die?
Yeah, I would have liked to have known what was wrong with him, whether that was an old age thing or something had infected the Q continuum. There's more story there that I think pandemic wise you just could not get to.
Maybe because it was just like I think killing someone like Q, I don't think he's dead. In my headcanon, he ain't dead. Whatever happened was just something that happened, and I don't even have to.
Now in a Q nursing home.
Yeah, like killing. He's been too powerful of a being. We know how much they've transcended, and I'm like, death wasn't on the cards for these literal eternal beings. So I'm like, I don't know. Oh, we got one comment in the chat. We've from R. Moldrick. We've already had Rikers dealing with loss. In keeping with the theme of the show, we needed a story on fear of loss with Geordi. It felt like it was more of a theme on the character in that case. You know, I agree. Now, I realized I got my Q tangent took me away from Geordi. I love Geordi's reluctance. I bought it
Yeah.
entirely.
The overprotectiveness towards the both of the daughters is
Yes.
brilliant.
If we think about it, Geordi spent all of his time hitting on holographic women. He never was successful with the ladies. He was desperate to fall in love, and every time he tried, it ended badly. And so he's finally in love. He has a wife. He's got 2 lovely daughters, and you know he's not gonna he doesn't want to let that go. He doesn't want to jeopardize that. He's literally thinking about protecting his family. And I'm like,
Yeah.
because I saw some people like Geordi wouldn't do that. Of course he would help. I'm like, no, you're not thinking about it as a concerned parent. And
Yeah.
that scene between Geordi and Sydney, where he's like, "Did you think about us?" And his voice cracks and his eyes are watering. I'm like, God, like LeVar Burton is doing some of his best Geordi acting that we've ever seen. These 3 episodes are. Oh my God. Literally, like his conversation with Sydney legitimately made me teary-eyed when I was watching that. I was like, and I don't know if it's because like I'm about to be a dad and I'm thinking about it from that perspective, or if just like in general the scene would have moved me in the same way. But I'm like, fudge, like this is moving. Like you feel the parental care and love and desire to keep his kids safe. But Sydney's comeback is also great. And
both actors for both of them are brilliant as well, I think.
Yes.
Both daughters.
I give us more Sydney. Alondra hasn't had a lot, so I haven't been able to connect with her as much.
Yeah.
But Sydney is just, I love Sydney. She's a great new character.
I feel like some of that overprotectiveness as well ties back really nicely to TNG and how Geordi reacted when his mum disappeared. Because obviously there was never any closure to that. Yeah. We only very briefly saw his dad in that episode, and we never did find out what happened to his mum. Was she really missing? Did they ever find the wreckage of her ship? Did they ever find her? So he probably, my headcanon is they never found her. He never knows what happened to his mum, and he has that hanging over him with both daughters. He has one obviously that's nearby, but Sydney is off flying the Titan and could just never come back one day, and that's going to always remind him of what happened to his mum.
You know what? I hadn't made that connection until you've just said that. That makes even more sense. That kind of PTSD that he probably has from his mom. Oh man, that just makes that scene even more meaningful. Whether they did that intentionally or not, accidental subtext is that.
How do you feel about the fact that we haven't seen his wife?
I'm kind of bummed by it. I feel, but at the same time, would she be on? I guess she would be on the station, maybe.
I presume that she would. Yeah, you would presume she would be nearby, unless she's on a ship somewhere.
Otherwise, why would she not have come over with? Or because he just left, and now he's stuck with him, and there's no real mention of the wife.
Yeah.
Of his wife. Have we mentioned her? Have they mentioned her name? Okay. Yeah. So that is also a weird kind of thing to have left out, maybe. I've thought about it. I'm like, I would have liked something, but I guess characters in space.
So this is part of the episode about his mum disappearing that I hadn't thought of. His mum and his dad were on different ships.
They were, yeah.
So I guess maybe it's something that he has grown up with and is used to. Yeah. I am on the same train of please don't let his wife be Leah Brahms. the engineer who built the warp core, who had the whole holographic thing with. I don't think there is any. It's not even a remote chance that it is. I will die on that hill.
No. But in the alternate timeline in Best of Both Worlds, it's not. Is he married to? He's not married to her, is he?
In All Good Things.
That's what I meant. I said Best of Both Worlds. Yeah, All Good Things.
No. Oh, good question. She's not in the episode. She might be mentioned by name.
Yeah, I can't remember. If someone in the
chat for the viewers at home. is Leah Brahms mentioned in All Good Things?
Yeah, let me know. Let me know. Because I can't remember. But no, yeah, I don't want them together.
No. And I don't think Terry would do that. I don't think anyone writing the show would think, let's put him with the one character he was kind of with twice, although once was a hologram.
Yeah, and the real person was just really not into him.
Yeah,
Also,
and I don't think LeVar would be down for that either. I think he would say that would be ridiculous.
yeah, I totally agree. Dominion. I don't really have a lot to say about this episode. I think yeah, it's a pretty simple episode in that it's basically Vadic takes over the ship.
It's very much setting up for 8 and it's like setting up the pins for 8 to knock him down.
Yeah, yeah. There was a part of me that sort of felt that maybe you could truncate a couple of these episodes. There has been a few times where I'm like, I'm not sure we need 10 episodes. I feel like you could put some of these together to speed up as much as I'm enjoying a lot of these moments. I did feel, I think, in Bounty, like there were moments where Picard and Geordi are talking while I'm loving the conversation. I am thinking, I'm not sure this is the time and place for this particular conversation. Particularly when they're rambling on about their kids. I love them talking about their kids.
Yeah.
That was interesting to me, but I thought we're really in a more tense situation, and I'm not sure talking about the fact that our talking about our families and our family dynamic, this probably isn't the time and place, but you also you need so maybe save that for a later time to move things along a little bit further, a little bit quicker rather.
I think that was, yeah, I guess what they were trying to do, the way I looked at it, was they were trying to make sure that it was in the forefront of your mind that these characters now have all these responsibilities they didn't have in TNG. They all, they have these kids, they're in this situation, so that when you get to the point where Vadic is in that, as Beverly pointed out, hermetically sealed force field, so she cannot just squidge her way out. When Picard and Crusher have that conversation about throwing away, her oath and all of their morals and just killing her because their child is in danger, that you go, yes, actually, these people do all have kids. Maybe after 20 years, they would just kill for their children.
Yes. See, that stuff I bought. When Beverly is and Picard are having that really difficult conversation about what to do with Vadic. That was the first, I feel like was the first time we've really seen the TNG crew come across a Deep Space Nine level morality issue.
Yes.
What do we do here? I could just blow this changeling's head off right now. But is that the right thing to do? Do we come up with another disease? Like they go there. They're like, and I'm like, that's fascinating. They're thinking, we're really back to that. And that's what I loved about Deep Space Nine, was the fact that it challenged the morals of the Federation, and I like the fact that we're seeing the Next Generation crew, who have always been relatively morally astute, going a little bit more gray than I think we've ever seen. But in a way that feels right.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. I'm not watching this thinking, this doesn't track. I'm like, no, this tracks. These reasons, make sense. There's one moment in episode 8 where I'm like, maybe not, but one more minute, and then we'll get to episode 8. Dominion, I think, was just a really good sort of Die Hard like episode. It was just it was the action episode, because it was the changelings taking over and a little bit of conversation, but it was mostly kind of action. And then we get our first visual of Jack taking over someone's body.
Yeah, development that I didn't see coming in his strange little subset of powers.
Yes, we once saw him go a little bit Jason Bourne and shoot a bunch of changelings, and then we see him literally take control of someone's body. He's in people's minds all of a sudden. The questions are flying out, like, what in the world is going on with this guy?
He is Bran Stark. He is warged.
I love that. You know, it was a really weird thing, and
Yeah.
I like we've kind of been touching on sporadically throughout this. It's like where are they going with this? What is this?
Yeah.
What is this leading to? And obviously we got our first our first data lore
Yeah.
moment, which you know Brent, like we've said already, is acting away.
He's
Act-
I mean, literally running circles around himself in scenes in this episode.
I know, I love it. And this is kind of a point where I think some of the stuff that happened in episode I keep saying season 7, episode 7, episode 8, where I think we sort of circle some of the same stuff in 7 and 8 and a little bit of 6. The minute we sort of find data, we know that he's split in half.
Yeah.
We see the two halves in episode 7. What's it called again?
Dominion.
Yeah, Dominion. That's it. In Dominion, and then
and Surrender.
And then
call it them the other way around.
Yeah, and then Surrender. We finally see them sort of clashing, and we get the resolution to that. Really, this is more sort of minor criticism, but I do feel like some of this stuff, I really feel like 7 and 8 probably could have been one episode.
Yeah,
in many ways. What were your initial thoughts on 7? Let's jump. Unless you have anything else to say about Dominion, have I missed anything? It was a pretty simple episode, really, but it was fun.
Yeah, it was. I was really lucky with this because so I had seen episodes 1 to 6 before it was on TV, and then I had an 8-week wait to see anything new.
Wow.
I basically had to go through the whole weekly. And then when 7 dropped in America, I had an email overnight, which I was totally not expecting, with 7 and 8. And so I watched them back to back.
Nice.
And so I didn't really even give myself 5 minutes between episodes to sort of take them as episodic. It was it was always a 2-parter. And so I feel like it probably functions better in a binge than with a week gap in between. Because like you say, it probably could have been truncated down into one episode, but it is very much a absolute sort of classic TNG 2-parter.
Yeah. I wonder, so here's where I've had a dilemma with streaming in general. It's the streaming model of how they structure their episodes. The sort of and what you're doing when you structure a streaming episode, everything kind of is meant to flow. Nothing is really episodic, totally. But there's certain shows like Picard season 3 that is in some ways each couple of episodes are their own block of story. And then you're kind of left hanging for the next week, and you're allowed time to digest them. And then when things don't move on or don't move forward sort of far enough, you're kind of thought, well, why did I wait all week just to see just a little bit more of the story progress? And I think part of that comes from watching that the mindset changes when you're watching weekly versus when you can just sit and binge something. Like when we watched Wednesday in January, which was a terrific show written and created by the guys that did Smallville.
Yes.
And that show was, we just sit and binge. It was wonderful and exciting. And there was something else that we watched recently that was meant to be kind of on a binge model, but wasn't quite working. And now that's totally gone out of my mind, which is really frustrating. But yeah, so I think it's one of those things where I think, I wonder if you could just watch this all in one go, because they're calling this a 10-hour movie.
Yeah.
And it does genuinely, like,
really
if you think of episodes 1 to 4, that is the first act. 5 to 7 is the second act, and 8 to 10 is clearly the third act. And it's clearly set up that way, but it's interesting watching it on a weekly basis and having those gaps and how your brain sort of reacts to them. And I wonder if you could sort of restructure that streaming model of storytelling. Oh, I know, it's The Mandalorian. God, The Mandalorian is
Ah.
terrible. Season 3 is awful.
Do
No
you know
offense.
what? I haven't seen any of season 3 for that very reason that I just can't do it.
Genuinely awful. I love season 1. Season 2 is rough, but season 3 is I'm not. This is something I can't sugarcoat. It's literally it's just awful.
Wow.
It's things sort of happening but not really going anywhere. But it's told in a streaming model where it's like we're meant to be going from episode to episode with a continuous story, but that continuous story isn't really going anywhere, and it's very very messy, very messy. And so that's where it's like Picard is great, and that you're getting really wonderful episodes every week. But maybe they're being held back a little bit by the streaming mindset where they things kind of stretch out a little bit longer. They allow you to stretch scenes and
Yeah.
and stuff
Yeah.
where back in the day you got 42 minutes, 45 minutes
That's very true. Yeah.
to tell your one story. And yeah, so this isn't really a criticism. I'm not really sure what my point is here. I mean, I'm not saying that Picard 3 is bad because of this. It's just one of those bigger questions about streaming and how you write and release shows that are really meant to be binged, and how that sort of affects your viewing of it when really you should be getting like maybe 2 episodes per week. Maybe 1
Yeah.
and 2 should
Yeah.
release 3 and 4 or 5. I don't know.
I think there is also something to be said about this very specific season of this show as well, which is we all know who's in it. We all know this whole cast is back, and they have very cleverly written a really wonderful story about how Picard is where he is, and how each of these people comes back into his life.
Yes.
And they didn't just plonk them all together right at
No.
the beginning and go, "We're all going to go off on an adventure." But that means that each week we've gone, okay, so we've met Riker, we've met Worf, we've met Crusher. Troy's kind of lurking a little bit in the background.
Yeah.
And then, okay, Geordie's now here. Data's now here. And in the back of your mind, you're going, okay, I'm on episode 7. I've seen everyone. I've only got 3 episodes left. They've not been together yet. And then you go through 7 and you're like, these people are now so close together.
Yeah.
And then you get to 8 and you're like, they are literally next to each other. And I wonder whether that's part of it as well. So I wonder whether when you go back and watch it again once it's all over and you've seen the whole thing, will the pacing feel different because you then know when you're going to get that moment that you've been waiting for 8 episodes?
Yes.
Because at the moment you're just like, are they? Is this the episode? Is this where are they gonna? They look. They're like they're on the shuttle. They're near the Titan. Are they going to be together?
Yes, that's very
true. You can kind of by the end of 8, you can then go. Okay.
Yes, yeah, and I have to admit, I mean, when they do finally all get together in Surrender, it's a very well earned moment. It's a very well earned moment. I actually have no complaints whatsoever in terms of the way in which the characters have interacted and teamed up. I actually think it must have taken a considerable amount of restraint. To wait this long to bring everyone together. So I have to applaud the show for that, because I could imagine how easy it would have been to, all right, we need to put everyone together by episode 3, and then what do you do? The restraint that they've had slowly building up to this moment, really, despite my criticism a second ago about things being stretched out, once we get to 8, well earned. So well earned.
It's just such a wonderful moment. I could just watch it over and over. In fact, I could just watch a whole season of them sat around a table just talking to each other.
I know, absolutely. So Surrender. Let's chat full on Surrender. Oh man, some really crazy stuff happens in this episode.
Wow, did really I not see this episode coming?
No, I just gotta say, last week So last week, yeah, last week, I had Stephanie Jakowski, who plays Tavine on my show, and she was wonderful. I loved talking to Stephanie. Obviously, she didn't give anything away, off camera or on camera. But
Which is
what we,
brilliant. So she
yeah,
obviously didn't crack at all.
no, no. There was a moment of cracking. Well, you know what? I don't know. That's not true. She didn't crack, but she said something that was like related to Jack, and I was like, oh, so he must survive. But I think she was misdirecting me on the fact that she's not going to survive, because
Ah.
Stephanie was talking about she would really like to see a friendship develop between Jack and Tavine, like a
Hmm.
Kirk Spock relationship, and I was like, oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
Please let it happen. And then we have this moment where Vadic is threatening to kill people, and it's like, I don't want her to kill the ensign. I don't want her to kill I'm terrible with names. If anyone is watching the show from the show, I'm so sorry. But I should
To
have looked
be
it up.
fair, I am not great on the bridge officers' names on the Titan yet. I've not
Yeah.
committed
Well,
anything to memory other than Tavine.
it's because they've been there, but Sydney and Tavine have been the most.
Yeah, you've seen the most of those two.
Yes. So I think that's part of it. But I love the guy playing the Bajoran
Yeah.
on there. He's been really cool, and I gotta tell you what Picard 3 has done in the fact that even though the bridge staff haven't really done much involving the plot, there's been enough of them in there that I'm like, I'm intrigued. I'm like,
Yeah.
tell me more about these people.
And as she's holding a gun to their heads, you're like,
And
no, 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 none of them. I want all of them to survive.
and you know what? They really did a
Hey,
good
this is
fake
good
out.
about all of you.
They did a good fake out because there were 3 or 4 of them who we've like never seen.
Yeah, they were.
And I was like, oh, they're gonna kill one of these people. It's fine. They're gonna kill one of these people we've never seen. And then the motherfuckers. I say that with love.
Yeah.
They kill Tavine. And my jaw dropped. I literally, like, my heart started to race. I was like, you didn't just kill Tavine. I was very interested in this character. I really wanted to see this character go somewhere. And now you bloody well killed her. God damn you.
But isn't it amazing how she's had, what, 5 minutes of screen time across 8 episodes, and you're still like, no!
Right? Right? It speaks to Stephanie's acting.
Yes, it does.
Because she's had like I said, these small moments, but those small moments have made an impact on the show. I mean, even the ensign who was crying with I can't remember the species that she's playing at the that they're playing at the moment that they're playing, but even that I was like, oh my god, don't kill him, don't kill him, please don't kill him. And again, it's because I want to see them all in Star Trek Legacy.
Yes.
That is why I wanted to see them all in Star Trek Legacy, going and doing something. Maybe the guns don't kill them. Maybe the gun was a transporter.
Yeah. Or, I mean, as they keep saying, when you've got an actor who's been in some kind of prosthetics, there's plenty of opportunity for them to come back as another character in just different prosthetics.
This is true. You could obviously bring back Stephanie back in any other role, but Tavine.
Not Tavine.
It's Tavine. It's Tavine. It's Tavine. It's Tavine. Gosh. I don't know. What were some of the big moments that stood out to you? I got a whole list of things, but yeah.
That one, definitely. The fact that I genuinely felt like no one was safe in this episode. No one. Even our legacy characters, I didn't feel like everyone was safe. I still don't think everyone is safe for the rest of this season.
Same.
I both loved and kind of forgotten about it until I just rewatched it. Kind of shocked by the scene between Riker and Troy when they're just in the cell, kind of catching up with each other emotionally.
Yes.
Brilliant when he's like, I'm just going to give you one more shot of Riker charm before we die. But then where that conversation goes to a very, very dark place, which is kind of how Picard is dealing with her abilities, in that he feels like she stole his grief when Thad died. That was not a place I saw that relationship going at
Yeah.
all. Obviously, we started the season with there being a gap between, this literal physical and kind of emotional gap between them.
Yes.
But given how close they were in Nepenthe in season one,
Yes.
I did not see this coming, that there was this huge weight on him that he
Yes.
felt like she had taken his ability to grieve from him. That was, wow. Again, Frakes, best work I've seen him, I think, ever do as Riker.
Yeah. No, I have to admit, I mean, oh man, the way that they're bringing back their characters, it's when I think about the films, the TNG films, they're all pretty weak. Like in general. First Contact is my favorite. But it also kind of ruins the Borg. I'm one of the people who are like, I hate the idea. It doesn't ruin the Borg. That might be a step too far. I like to use dramatic language if people haven't figured that out already. When I say I hate something, it means I like mildly dislike something. Like I'm like, I hate mushrooms. They're awful. It's like I just don't like them. Blame the American side of me.
Also, an entire plot point in the Mario movie, hating mushrooms.
Is it? I feel bad. I feel bad for canceling my ticket. I feel bad. I'll go see it at some point. Anyway, no, yeah, the Borg. Yeah, I didn't like the Borg Queen concept. I thought was it took away the scary, mindless drone likeness of.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
But at the same time, the actress playing the Borg Queen and seeing the Borg Queen was also incredible, and that's why it's kind of tricky where it's like, don't quite like it, but it's still actually I think it's a pretty good movie. But the rest of the TNG movies, they never lived up to TOS. The TOS movies, I think, are pinnacle. TNG never really made it to that level of stardom when it came to the films. But that's not to say that when I watch them I don't enjoy them. Like I still enjoy them, but they're just not they're not Wrath of Khan. They're not The Voyage Home. They're not Undiscovered Country. They don't reach that level of impact, I think. And I think First Contact is the only one that really did. People, when no one talks about Tom Hardy playing young Picard. No one remembers that he's in that movie. They talk about the Borg. They talk about the Borg movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, 'cause I think that's kind of if you're going to give them a comparison, that is their Wrath of Khan. And it is genuinely quite good. But I round a very roundabout way of saying I while the films are okay, how we're seeing the characters in Picard season 3 is like, oh wow, it's a refreshing kind of like, yeah, I am back with these characters, and the actors are all putting everything they have into those parts more so than they did in the films. I don't think the films were fun. I don't know if they were fun for them, is what I'm trying to say. Maybe they weren't, but maybe it was just too soon after. I don't know. But God, they are putting everything into this, and you feel it.
Yeah.
Again, Geordi in this episode.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Data. The Data lore moment. How did you feel about that one?
Again, not how I expected it to play out. Interesting that it went that kind of meta and very, very plain in terms of what we were seeing, other than what really was just Brent. It was all hanging on him, acting against himself.
Yes.
Totally unexpected, but I thought it surprised me in a great way, in a good way, as to how it paid off, and it tied up Law's storyline somehow that I didn't realize I cared about in a really nice way.
Yes.
And it surprised me how much that impacted me and how much I cared.
Yeah, is that because Law's original ending, the finale of what 5 and 6 is kind of a dud?
Yeah,
because he's running. He's got his little Borg group of people, and
that's the last we see of him, isn't it? Yeah.
He's disassembled after that. We never see him again. And like that's fine because it was kind of like we need to get Lore out of the picture because Lore is he was tired by that point in the show in
Yeah.
TNG. Lore was a tired concept, but at the same time, Data confronted him, but we never really. I don't even think we saw Data like fully like stop him. Like
No,
we
no,
never had
not really.
we didn't have like that emotional moment where like Data might not be feeling anything, but we as the audience are seeing Data, pull the plug on his
Yeah,
brother.
yeah, that's never really happened.
Yeah.
And what a
Um,
way to do it as well.
yeah, yeah. I thought this was a really lovely way of ending Lore and elevating Data to a new kind of existence.
Yeah.
And what did you think about how Data did it?
Again, that really surprised me because that wasn't what I saw happening.
No.
I just presumed it was going to end up being. I don't want to use the word generic because that sounds like I'm saying it was dull, which it wasn't. But I
Yeah.
thought it was going to be the classic kind of fake out that he was just kind of going, "Oh no, I'm fading away. I'm fading away." No, I'm not. And it would just happen like that. And it
Yeah.
would be, it's like virus fighting virus
Yeah.
inside that positronic brain, and it would just the lights would start turning blue, and everyone would go, "He's back! He's fighting back!"
Yes.
So for it to
Yeah.
have been something that suddenly made all of Data's history, even when he had no emotions, be this huge emotional journey for the character, I thought was really clever.
Yes. Yes. And
And
I thought
finally, we now know how Denise Crosby was in this season.
oh, poor Denise Crosby. She's poor Denise Crosby. I feel so bad for Denise Crosby. Denise Crosby, if you ever want to come on my show, come on my show. I'd love to talk to you about Star Trek.
That's the other person that could be behind the door. It's Seela.
Oh no, 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 no. Please God, no. Please God, no. That would be no, 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 no. I don't want that. No. That's just giving me horror. I'm just horror thoughts now. No, no, no. She was her conclusion. Where? God, where did she conclude? It wasn't this. Was it the Spock episode?
So I've just watched that one. I don't think we do see her again after that.
I don't think we did either. Yeah.
She's just defeated when she tries to take over the Vulcan by sending an armada randomly during Spock unification.
Oh man, I mean, I love that is a great episode. I have a reunification Spock figure. I think I put him away the other day. I rearranged my Trek figures, so they're all over there, and I've got Next Generation, few TOS, and then my Deep Space Nine, and then all my Eagle Moss ships in front of
Nice.
them. They were back here, but yeah, so but that meant I had to put away some of my older older ones. Or actually, no, Spock is over there. I'm not gonna get him. It's too much stuff in the way, but he's over there. Yeah, I think that is the last time. I think that is the last time that we saw her. I don't think she's turning up. I don't think she's turning up in this, but as in, yeah, her Romulan self, her half Romulan human self. But it was nice to see that. And it was nice to see all these little moments of Data's memories.
Yeah.
And I loved his twist. I loved how he twisted it with Lore and thought, oh, I knew you would keep all these as trophies because you've always wanted.
You've always been envious of what Data has, even though you had the one that had the emotions from the beginning. Yeah. You were the one that had the more human programming, but you've always been jealous of him.
And
perfect.
I think
perfect.
I think I gotta love the episode for finally. Data for so long. He's always been the Pinocchio, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And now he's finally the real boy.
He can use contractions.
He can use contractions now, and it's yeah. I love that. I love that. We've gone this whole journey, and Data's finally emerged in this sort of human-esque form. He's the closest he's ever going to be to human. He's got the emotions of Lore, the intelligence of Data, this body that is assumedly going to die at some point.
Well, I'm trying to remember, how did he word it when he walks into the when he meets the rest of the cast? What does he say? Riker says, "You're back with some improvements, aren't you?" And he says, my programming has a little joie de vivre.
Yeah.
Just this little hand movement. He's like, I'm Data with a little joie de vivre.
Yes, yeah, I loved it. It's a really good blend. It's a very, very good blend. It's probably something that Brent Spiner's like, why didn't we think about this during TNG?
Yeah.
It could have given me some, instead of having Lore come back all the time or me playing one of 1,000 Soongs.
I mean, a whole career. I tried to count them. I think I got to about 8 or 9, I think.
There's so many. It's too many. There's 20 too many, actually.
And then different age, time periods of the same one as well.
Yes, it's ridiculous. The amount of Soongs is ridiculous. Okay, so Vadi exposes her plan. She wants Jack. She wants Jack's abilities, but we still don't know for what. And this links back to what we've been saying. We've been waiting a very, very, very long time to get answers.
Yeah.
And episode 7 ended with that cliffhanger. It's time to find out who you really are or what you really are. But
yes,
we don't find out.
So close.
I know. It's like, come on, guys. Just tell us now. Tell it.
I genuinely, I'm not hammering this up when I say this. I was on my knees off the sofa because I'd looked to see how much time was left on the episode as they're kind of doing the bit at the end where they're going to the red door, and I was like, it's not gonna happen. And I was just like, open the door. Yes. Open the goddamn door.
Yep. I know. It was God. Oh, did I want them to do it? I wanted them to just get there, get in the door, because this is where it's interesting. This is where Troy, I think, for the first time in almost forever, I thought they finally utilized Troy in a very good way.
Yep.
Using her to go inside Jack's mind and understand, and her recognizing, there's a darkness on the ship. It's connected to Jack. It's not Jack though.
Yeah.
It's something around him. It's something around him. Something is using him and connected to him, which is to me that sort of there's that joke in Rick and Morty, that sort of plot device joke, that plot device armor joke where Morty eats I think it's in the Purge episode, where the reason he was willing to purge was because he had like eaten some sort of food that allowed him to get so angry. But then at the end of the episode, there's another twist in that, like, they show you the warning on the label. It's like, it doesn't do that. So it was just Morty being, violently insane. But so I kind of felt like that was a little bit of plot armor, where it's like, look, something's up with Jack, but he's fine, because if we want to do a legacy show, we're not going to have this red-eyed craziness going on. He's just going to be normal. He's just going to be normal Jack Crusher, rather. But I mean, what Troy's a character in TNG.
I can't quite sense what's happening. I don't know I can't feel anything.
Every time. And every time there's a bit where she would be useful, she's never on the bridge.
Exactly. Yeah.
Every time there's like, oh, this would be a good moment to like know what this person is thinking and feeling. And where is she? Come on.
She's doing some sort of gymnastics with Dr. Crusher.
Yes, oh my God. Yes, exactly. So I thought that this was a really good way of bringing Troy in, because I guess they tried to utilize her abilities in Nemesis.
Yeah, they do, don't they? They do the Morticia Adams with her, where they would like darken all of the frame apart from her eyes.
They do, and it's also kind of a scene that is reminiscent of the that TNG episode where she's with that other Betazoid. Is he a Betazoid or is he half Betazoid? There's the Betazoid who gets inside her mind and like wants to, and is like kind of doing sexual things with her.
I just literally watched that one. It's a different species, but with similar abilities. It's the hairbrushing thing where he goes into people's dreams and puts them into a coma.
That's it.
And he does kind of sexually abuse her in her. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. and they do that again with Nemesis, and it's like, can you do something else with Troy and her mind stuff, please? Like, this is a little bit icky. So it was nice to see her like actually like have control, and do something and feel like, oh, Troy actually has powers that are useful, because you always see her up against her mom, and like her mom is great. I love her
God
mom.
rest her soul.
Yes, yeah, no, she's wonderful. So that was good to see. But like you said, we get to the bit, we get to Jack. I mean, I've been making jokes for ages, but I'll share my screen and show you. So yeah, the big what I think is happening. What's really going on with Jack Crusher?
It is the ghost of Nana and her
I mean,
lover,
I I don't
Sub
think
Rosa.
Terry Metalis would actually do this, but I have to admit there were moments really early on in the show when the show was about to come out where Terry Metalis and Robert Meyer Burnett, if you know who he is, he has the Post Geek Singularity. He's a very strong opinionated guy, but I kind of like him. They were joking around saying that Sub Rosa is a very important episode to know for this season.
Oh.
But they were playing it off as jokes.
But
And I wish I'd thought about this sooner because I would have found them and screen grabbed them. But they were joking about that very, very early on. So it's like, what is going on? Because, I mean, there's the old lady in the middle. Her eyes look a little red.
yeah.
And she's being controlled by a ghost. The Crusher Ghost. Is the Crusher Ghost? Are they going to try and make something important out of the Crusher Ghost?
One way to redeem what is known as one of the worst episodes of TNG.
I mean, like, I know it's bonkers.
I mean, it could be. It could be. Can you imagine?
I mean, because no one likes it. Everyone loves to hate this episode. But what if they actually tried to make something out of this? Like these, because it was ridiculous. Sub-Rosa was ridiculous. This ghost has been following the Beverly's side of the family. It's not the Crushers, but Beverly's side.
Yeah.
You know, but it's all the women, all that kind of. But what if there's something else that's actually been following the Crushers all these years, and this thing is
The changelings need it.
the changelings want it, they need it. It's what, but yeah, but what? I mean, this is far-fetched, but like it's funny to think of because I'm like, what's the only other thing that's connected to the Crushers that has some sort of mind controlling abilities? And it's like,
Yeah.
it's this crazy ghost. Oh wait, let's hang on. Didn't they mention something ancient in a previous episode? I'm blanking. Well, no, yeah, I think Troy mentioned it in this episode. I think she mentioned it, and I think it's in this one where she mentioned this ancient sort of. It's an old ancient.
She does use that.
She does. She does.
Yeah.
It's because it's this.
The other thing I think I only got it on my second watch for episode 8 was the fact that moment where she says there's something incredibly dark on this ship has been in a lot of the trailers, and obviously we all went to the conclusion of she's on the Shrike and it's something to do with Vagg, and how wrong we all were all this time.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we have no idea, pure speculation at this point, but I'm just like, it's all I got. And I'm like, hey, we guessed Worf, we guessed Ro,
Yeah.
we sort of guessed Moriarty. Maybe we're sort of right here. Maybe the ghost. Maybe the ghost is coming back. I don't know. Let's just briefly talk about Vagg Sex. I realize we're going for a very long time. Crikey. I was like, yeah, we won't go for 2 hours. 2 hours and 14 minutes later.
Did you see it coming?
No.
No, me neither.
That was shocking. Legitimately shocking.
Yeah.
I thought even them throwing her out into space,
she would still
Air Force One-ing this moment. Get off my plane. I thought, oh, she's just gonna fly back to her ship, and can changelings survive out in the coldest space? I don't know.
I questioned it too. Yeah, apparently not.
Because didn't the one, the one we were talking about earlier, the who with Odo, who was like, oh,
he survived in the depths in kind of the dead of space, didn't he?
He did. But maybe he evolved or managed it somehow, and she has not. Because Vagg and these others are some sort of other
Yeah.
other version of changelings.
I
Um,
still wonder whether someone could scoop up the what's left and just de-ice her, but we'll have to wait and see.
yeah, because I gotta be honest. What do you think? What do you think this means for her character overall?
Yeah, I don't feel like she's done somehow. I feel
Mm,
like there is, even if it's not in this, even if it's somewhere else down the line, I feel like there is something here. There
mm,
is there's a story that ties into the torture that we saw in Dominion, that ties into the reason why she's picked the face that she has.
mm,
I feel like there's more that can be told there if the opportunity arises.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
think in terms of this, I don't think we'll see her again in the rest of Picard. I think this is her done for this season. And if someone chooses to go back to her character, I think there is definitely more that can be told.
Mm. Do you think? Because when she died, it really was a shocking moment, and
Yeah,
I was sort of thinking, have we have we now done a disservice to this character because she's been sort of looming? She isn't as we never got beneath the surface of her.
yeah,
We never got we got beneath the surface of like people like Gul Dukat and the Vedic Kai Wynn. We got,
yes, yeah,
there's a lot of, Q. There's a lot of other TNG, Deep Space Nine, TOS villains, who we really understood more than just kind of the surface level frustration with them.
yeah,
And I mean, yes, I know that we got that moment in Dominion where we understand her reason for being angry, but we never understood what her goal was.
yeah,
And now she's dead.
yeah,
And while it was shocking, there is a part of me that's like, ooh, you're now going the two episodes that are left, you now have to pull out a better villain
than
that
that.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Can you do that?
yeah. Because if we're going to Frontier Day, because that seems where all roads are
Yeah.
currently leading to Frontier Day,
Yeah.
is the floating head going to turn up there?
Mm,
We don't know where the floating head is. Not only do we not know who it is, we don't know where in the universe they are. We don't know, they
true.
could be Delta Quadrant for all we know.
True.
Um,
True.
so at the moment there aren't enough breadcrumbs to know how that is going to pay off.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
kind of very much unknown right now as to what's next, other than Frontier Day has to happen.
Yeah. And I mean, from an audience perspective, even from a writing perspective, I'm like, you have a hell of a lot of like you got a lot to pull off. And
Mm,
I know you have a movie's worth of time left. I know you have 2 hours worth, but we've already spent 8 hours with you.
yeah,
And with 2 hours left, you're now going to introduce a new villain? Are we, we're gonna maybe get an explanation for the weird hand thing,
mm,
where she cuts her hand off and talks to the face. It's ballsy. It's very
yeah. It
ballsy.
is
That's all
ballsy.
I can say. And they must. I don't think they would do this if, and this is where like I'm like talking myself down. I don't think they would do this if they didn't believe
Yeah,
in the
they
villain
believe
that
what
they
they've
have.
got. Yeah,
Yeah. So I think it definitely speaks to that. I think it speaks to they've got someone who all of this is going to tie together with Jack, with the face, with Frontier Day, with Picard's body being stolen, and Vatic picking out bits of Picard's brain. Oh,
yeah.
that reminds my thought earlier. That's we need a sacrifice.
Yes, we do.
Who is it going to be?
Well, so I did share with you my thoughts on where this is
Yes.
going.
Do you want to
And
share that now so that it's
yeah,
on the
yeah, I
record?
will. I have not. I've not spoke. I've not. You're the only person in the universe I have articulated this to thus far.
Oh my,
Um,
privilege is
but
mine.
and I will explain my rationale as well.
Mm,
From day dot on this season, I feel like I know what the final shot or final scene will be, and it goes back to the first episode. in Chateau Picard. He's having that conversation with Laris. They're talking about, and I wish I could remember the name of the planet, but they're packing up the chateau to go to where she has this new job. And he's just going with her. He's going to be a gentleman of leisure. He might write his memoirs, in fact. And there are so many things in that conversation which I feel have already started to pay off, or we've seen, or that have become important, that there are things that haven't yet, which I feel will. So he mentioned, of all the people to mention, he mentions Geordie and says, Geordie is running the Fleet Museum. Did he need to say that before we knew that we were going to need to go to the Fleet Museum? No. And so I feel like that final scene, somehow in this final 2 episodes, Picard is going to sacrifice himself. There will be no Picard left. Yeah. And I hate to say that might be. I don't want to think about him being gone forever, but I think we're going to see him properly killed off. And that final scene will be Laris waiting for him, because she said, I will be waiting for you. There is this little bar. I will have a table and I will see you there. And I think it's going to be Riker that walks up to her and says, or just, there may not even be, I don't even see any dialogue in it in my head. It's just a look. Yeah. It is a hand on her shoulder. She thinks it's him. She sees it's not. She knows that he is gone. Yeah. And that will be, fade to black on these 2 grieving family members for Picard. And that's how I think it's going to go.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's giving myself chills.
I know. I have to agree. I mean, that as endings go, that is a very good ending, because I think that makes sense, because also the other thing Picard says in that moment was, I don't need a legacy.
I don't need a legacy. Yeah.
And what does he have now?
Yeah.
It makes sense for him to feel that way, because in Generations, he lost his whole family. He never had a family. So he's come to terms with the fact that he doesn't need a legacy. But now he does have a legacy. So him sacrificing himself, him dying finally, I think you've nailed it. I think I will be shocked if it doesn't end in some way similar to how you've just described.
And Geordie will get the painting, which was the conversation.
Exactly. I think that is where we're going. I really do. Briefly back to Vadic. Armel Drake says, in all seriousness, I said on my channel we should have a separate episode about Vadic. Maybe Plummer will appear in a flashback. It's possible. That is possible. I think it's a shame that if they did it, we have to do it post death. Yeah. But I maybe she's not dead. Maybe that was a fake out. Like, as you said, that very well could be. But I do think we could have got a little bit more. A little bit more from her. But there's also weird stuff going on, because when have the change links or the link ever been able to communicate via cutting off a hand and a head floating on a dish? Like, what is
something about that as well seemed very ceremonial.
It did.
Because it wasn't like she just did it anywhere. She wasn't sitting in her captain's chair lopping a hand off. It was always, I'm going to go to this dish.
Yes. Yeah. So
whether it's a technological thing or something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, who knows? What does that mean? How do these things really die? Can they die? It's a very confusing, interesting thing, but it's and I think one of the great things about this season is that, we're not walking away from these episodes frustrated. It's like an episode of X-Files, or you're like, what in the world is going on? How are they going to resolve this? There's this wonderful excitement about what's happening next, and you're like, yes, let's see what in the world they do. But I can't believe they did this. Like, you killed Tavine, you bastards. I'll never forgive them for the death of Tavine. But yeah, I mean,
when you think about it, so that was the most deaths we've had this season. Tavine, Law, Vadic, plus a handful of unnamed crew members.
Also, my goodness, how horrific was that opening?
Yeah.
When Tavine is like, or not Tavine, just Tavine, you're on my mind. When Vadic is like, we take away their ears, we take away their eyes, we take away their path. And there's just, on the telecoms, you're hearing the shooting and the screaming. Like, damn.
Yeah.
Dark. Very dark. One criticism, though. It was ridiculous that Raffi was fighting these guys with knives, because they've had guns the whole time.
Yeah.
She just happened to find 5 changeling Urukai who didn't have guns. Like, come on.
She just wanted to show off her knife skills.
I know. She's been hanging out with Worf and wanted to show off what she could do now. But I'm like, that was the only thing in this episode that I think really stood out to me as like, you just want her to throw some knives around. It's just because everyone's been shooting everyone, and I'm like, why
Yeah.
not just shoot her? Just shoot her. Just shoot her. But obviously don't shoot her. Like, keep her alive. But I'm like, yeah. But then Worf, it was funny because Worf comes in and does the
He does the shooting rather than the knife.
Yes, he did. They do the reverse thing, which like is typically you have like in like macho action movies, you have like the guy
Yeah.
fighting his way, and then like the girl with the gun, like
Yeah.
you know. And so it was funny to me that they reversed that, and had Worf do that moment. And then, like you said, we finally get that wonderful moment with them all on the bridge together, not on the bridge, but all in the conference room. Back to TNG golden days.
And Gates, Beverly says, "I'm so happy to be here," and I feel like, so that's why I said Gates. I feel like that as much as it's the dialogue, it's also the actors saying how great it is to be together again.
Yes. Oh, I agree, and I think you nailed it as well when you were saying how they have the chemistry from those days through to now.
Yeah.
You're really feeling it all
Yeah.
of these years later. Like these. The characters feel like themselves, but they feel like 30 years later.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. They've somehow taken their real lives and put it in there without compromising the fact that they are these characters that we all know them as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually got one more quick criticism. And that was when Worf was rambling to Deanna. I'm like, what are you doing?
Calling back to the romance that apparently no one wanted.
Well, exactly. I was slightly confused by it because I was like, wait a minute, Worf, you married Jadzia Dax. Like, you don't care about Troy. What are you doing? What is this nonsense? What are you rambling on about, old man Worf? That was the only bit that I was like, I guess they're just trying to do a TNG callback if you haven't seen Deep Space Nine. But this whole show is about Deep Space Nine villains. So I'm like, you're sort of expecting people to have seen Deep Space. It was just a weird one. And he's like, I haven't seen you for so long. I'm like, I don't know if I believe you, because he kept seeing you after Deep Space Nine ended. So
yeah, true. You always just happened to take shore leave when a movie happened.
Yes. He was on shore leave with oh crap, what one was it?
So Insurrection.
He
was on shore leave. I forget how he happened to be there for Nemesis. Oh, the wedding.
Think he was just back on the Enterprise.
Do you think? Was he there for because that would have been after Deep Space Nine had finished, wouldn't it?
Was he there for the wedding?
He would definitely have been there for the wedding either way. So either he was there for the wedding and just got stuck, or was back.
Yeah, maybe it was the wedding stroke. I can't remember now. It's been so long.
To be fair, by that, if it was for the wedding, then Wesley should have been in the rest of that movie and not the one deleted scene.
You know what? It's because I've seen that scene. I always think, well, Wesley was at the wedding.
Yeah.
But I always forget this is a stupid deleted scene.
Yeah.
But also, yeah. Do you think we'll get lastly, because I know we've gone very long with this episode, who do you think we're going to see by the end of season 3?
And this, bear in mind, I did say that Voyager was not a show that I watched when it was live. I am going to be a bit disappointed if we don't see Janeway, and not because I so desperately want her to be in it, but because she has been name dropped in almost every single episode.
She has been name dropped a lot.
And not only name dropped, but in either 7 or 8, when they were talking about Frontier Day, it was mentioned that she was organizing it. So if we now see Frontier Day and she is not, at the very least, on a screen somewhere, just waving regally at people, that's going to be a shame, because I feel like we've said it too much now.
Yeah.
She is going to have to be there. But I feel like that's going to be their perfect opportunity to bring back as many people as possible. So
Tim Russ has already given it away that he's in another episode. He spoiled the hell out of that on Twitter. Everybody was so mad at him. he was like the episode's barely come out. He's like, oh, it was so great to be back. Hit tweet. He's like, I'm in it for 2 episodes. So Everyone's like, we haven't even seen the episode yet, man. It
So I
was.
presume that's going to be. I wonder if that's going to be some mop up at the end, as if to say,
I think
the
so.
changelings had him. We've now got him back.
I think so. I think
I
so.
do think we need to see someone from Deep Space Nine, but I don't know who. Because if we see Cisco, which would be an absolute revelation to get him,
No, we can't see Cisco.
you would never get Avery Brooks back acting anyway. I don't think,
No.
but it would also not only undo the ending of Deep Space Nine, but would need to explain how the hell he was back and not just in the wormhole. So I don't think it would be him. I don't see why it would be someone like Kira, as much as I would love to see her again, because she's back being just, she was in Starfleet uniform for all of season 7, and then at the end back to being part of just the Bajoran, whatever. Say Bajoran Starfleet, whatever you call them.
Bajoran military, whatever.
I don't know who it would be. Would it be Esri? Does that have much impact?
Esri, Miles, Bashir.
Miles should be. Bashir would be interesting.
Those all make sense.
Yeah.
Anyone else, other than like a joking cameo with Quark selling some stuff, doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
But those three make sense if you're going to throw some extra cameos in. One of those three could easily be it.
Chakotay would be an interesting one from Voyager, because I don't quite. Yeah, of course, he said that they'd offered him a part at one point, and he'd said no, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because in theory, this is somewhere concurrent with Prodigy. I think Prodigy is slightly before this.
Okay.
But where we are at the end of season 1 of Prodigy going into season 2 is that he is lost in the future in the Delta Quadrant. He's stuck in the future millions of miles away. So in theory, I think potentially Janeway should be still trying to find him, which is what she's doing in Prodigy. So I don't think him. Harry Kim, maybe just to say, finally, Harry is no longer an ensign. Although he could still be an ensign, and that would be
Lieutenant Harry Kim. 70-year-old Lieutenant Harry Kim.
Yeah. Starfleet's longest serving lieutenant.
Yep. Yeah, those are all interesting choices. I think we will get some of them. I'd love a Q cameo, just somewhere in the background. Just Q really and being like, see, I'm not dead. Because while I know I've said some things about season 1, 2 that I don't like, there have been moments in season 3 where even the show is sort of like, hey, those seasons are nonsense. Every once in a while. Shaw had the biggest moment. When he's doing his big monologue. And he's like, whatever that Borg shit is, that's not the Borg. The real Borg are still out there.
Yes,
and I'm like, you can't really get more obvious than that. Than by, that's just as blatant as Luke Skywalker throwing the lightsaber in one film, and then in the next film being like, you never throw your lightsaber. Like, that to me is I'm like, that was intentional. You've said that because you clearly were not happy. But I'm implying a lot. I don't know this to be fact. But my takeaway from that is, I feel like you say that because you don't fully dig what was just done.
I don't know which bits. So Terry worked on season 2, but only part of it, and then they split off for him to do season 3. So I don't know which bits of 2 were his and which bits weren't.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but so that's an interesting thing to put in there. And there have been many digs at the positronic body stuff. There's been a lot of digs.
I'm glad it came back rather than not being talked about. I know it was. It was mentioned in all of that one episode in season 2 where he was really unwell, and the doctor back in the 21st century was trying to work on him, and it was like, this isn't quite right. But other than that passing mention, it wasn't really picked up on all that much after the fact that he died. So I'm glad it's been more of an issue in season 3 for it to at least have become a through line for the whole show.
Yeah. It's made something of it in a way that I at first thought was going to sort of irk me the wrong way, but I'm like, actually, no, I'm fine with it. I just sort of ignore most of season 1, but it's fine. But they've done it in a way that makes it feels more organic. I think. Yeah. Any other thoughts? I think we've kind of talked about everything that I have written down. Do you have any other outstanding thoughts? Red door, what's behind it? Who the floating head is? Are we gonna go back to the Great Link? We shouldn't go back to the Great Link. I don't want to see a deep fake Odo. Like we talked.
No, I don't think we will. I don't think that we will. I think it will continue to be this sort of rogue faction.
Yeah. Yeah. Shaw's knife that's been set up. That needs to be paid off.
Yes, it does.
That was too in your face, him sharpening that knife for that to not, but it's not come back at all since, which just makes me think like, was that just like, what was he doing with that knife then? Like, what's going on? Come on, Shaw.
I think at this point, I just want them to go ahead and say there was going to be more, that this will go into legacy, and that, you know, those bridge crew have been cast because they are staying. You know, Sydney, maybe Alana is going to end up on the Titan. Maybe she's got the bug to spend a bit of time out in space.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah. My only question mark is whether where they are at the moment, if Seven is still there as the commander, would Raffi serve on the same ship? Because a lot of people still want to see Seven and Raffi, whether they be together or just in the same show. And I don't know whether the two fit together in a show if they're not in a relationship. So I don't quite. Raffi's the unknown for me. I want more of her, but I don't know if this ends up being the right place for her to be a main character if Seven is also a main character.
That's interesting.
And I want Seven to be a main character. So.
I do too. I want Seven and Shaw and everyone else. I'm sort of at a point where it's like Seven's the only character that I'm happy to see continue. Everyone else I'm happy to say goodbye to. Including Raffi. I'm like, go do things with Worf.
Yeah, there's an interesting pairing. I mean, he still wants his Captain Worf show.
Yeah.
He's still talking about I want my Worf show. So maybe there's a show where she is number one to Captain Worf.
I mean, like, why not do that? If this season has proven anything, it's like the love for Worf is huge.
Yeah.
Like, he was already huge because, like, you brought him into Deep Space Nine. You brought no one else in. You brought Deep Space, Deep Space Nine made Miles O'Brien an actual character. And then, did so much. I think some of Worf's best stuff is in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Like, he merged into that show so perfectly. It was almost like he was there the whole time.
Yeah.
He was you sort of in your mind like, oh, you need to always be on the Enterprise, and then you see him. No, you need to always be at Deep Space Nine because that's where you belong. Absolutely. Yeah, I would love to see a Worf show, but I really want to see Legacy. I really want to see Legacy. And it will be a real shame if Paramount don't respond to the fan, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, so where we are now, obviously Picard ends this year, Discovery ends next year. We know we've got Starfleet Academy coming, but that still will leave only 2 live action shows and then 2 animated shows. So
yeah. There's, and I'm sure I know, these shows aren't going to be cheap, for sure. But like, come on, there's so much more to tell in the 25th century. Like, and it's lovely. It's pushing things forward, and it's so far removed from what's happening in Discovery's future timeline that, frankly, could be an alternative timeline.
Could be, yeah.
And oh, that was my other point I forgot to mention. I've always had alternative timelines in my head, and when we at the Fleet Museum and we see an original TOS ship, it is a TOS ship. It is not Strange New Worlds TOS.
Oh yeah,
at all. It is TOS.
That's a very good point. I had not thought of that.
And it's made me go, huh? Because I always sort of told myself, in terms of headcanon, in the way that J.J. Abrams movies are alternative universe, I'm always like, this Discovery and Strange, it's alternative universe. That's why things are so different. That's why they can be fighting the Gorn, even though that makes no sense. That's why they can be doing certain, Uhura can be on the ship well before she should be on. That's how
Yeah.
that's why Spock can have some secret sister. She's taking us. She's taking the space of the place of Cybok, whatever.
That to me is their biggest. I mean, I agree with you in the whole prequel thing, but that I think is their biggest mistake, is feeling like they had to do that.
Yeah, they didn't need to.
I mean, they had so many showrunners that were involved at the beginning. It was really rocky getting that show to where it is, and I'm so glad it got to where it is, because I think the original characters in it are brilliant.
I think they should have just kept Brian Fuller on and let Brian Fuller do his thing. Because I had Nicholas Meyer on my show the other day, and he was he was like, I don't know what's going on with that show. Like he was like, I was in the writer's room, we did some stuff. I don't know if they took any of my ideas. It's like, and then we were talking about it off the show. But yeah, and he has mentioned other podcasts as well. He was just sort of like, I don't know, because he wasn't invited back after season 1. So it's a very weird dynamic going on. But they hit their stride with Picard season 3.
Yeah,
and it's like, here you go, guys, come on. And I can't attest to Discovery future season, because I sadly stopped halfway through season 2 and haven't gone back.
It's so fixated on serialized storytelling that it is very, very different, which is why I kind of liken it to Deep Space Nine, particularly the final season, because that season is so heavily serialized.
It is,
and it does lean into more of those political, kind of socio-political and religious and those kinds of storylines more than the space exploration. But then each season of Discovery has ended up being very different, and this final season looks like it's one massive action adventure from the trailer that I've seen. So it looks like it's going to pivot again to something completely different for the final season. So it'll be interesting to see.
That's interesting. I might go back and watch the future season. When do they go to the future? Is the end of season 2?
End of season 2. So you've got 3. You'll have 3, 4, and 5 that are all in the future.
Maybe I might over time go back and give them a go. Because it was, and also like the Klingons. I know this is such a nitpick, and
I know what you mean. Though the makeup is very strange.
Yeah, it's like, why would they change that much? The idea is that they had the disease, the what, not the disease, but the kind of whatever that screwed up their physiology, and that's what made them look like Worf Klingons.
Yeah.
So they should look like Teal, but they don't look like Teal. Why? Well, come on. So I'm like, the timeline. So I'm saying in that, there's no reason why Legacy couldn't happen. Legacy couldn't continue, and it is just the actual. This is the continuation of that timeline, and everything is happening in. We've already introduced multiverse, so go with it. Just go with it. That can help you explain, and also maybe help you like. I also think, if the last thing I'm going to say, I also think it would help. It would have helped with the fans who are really nitpicky, because if you did the alternate, because I never cared about the JJ movies because I knew they were alternate timeline. I was fine with it. It's like, it's fine. They're not destroying the legacy that's already out there. It's just time. It's fine. I think if they at least done that with Discovery from the very beginning, and so this is taking place during the JJ movies, no one would have cared. They would have been like, oh, okay, cool. This is just set in that universe. Cool.
Yeah.
I think that could have helped. But
the other thing that always bothered me about that first JJ movie was that if you read any of the production, like the making of kind of art book and stuff like that, or watch the deleted scenes, the fact that Romulan ship went back in time because it was augmented with Borg tech, and it was never mentioned in the film.
No, it wasn't.
In all of anything you read about how they worked up the design for that ship, it's all about how it's Borg tech, and it is never mentioned in the film.
Gosh, no, I didn't. You know what? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that's what it used transwarp technology to travel around and travel through time.
I mean, of course, the major plot hole is that why didn't you just go back in time and warn Romulus?
Yes.
But whatever. Whatever. Oh, but they are, the cast in that are very good. I quite enjoyed, even despite the plot hole. I quite enjoy 1.
Yeah.
For what it is, and I enjoy 3. I don't like 2. But
very
1 and 3 are fun. I think I would love for these guys to get a third, 4th movie.
Yeah.
I feel bad. I feel like they they all put so much into it that I'm like, I like you in these roles, and they were the most Trekkie in the third film, and I'm like, yeah, come on, give them one more go,
Yeah.
one more go. So yeah, here we are. We're at the end. This is what happens when you review 4 episodes in one go. It'll be an hour. 3 hours later. But I thank you for coming on for such
Thank you.
huge period of time and rambling Trek with me. Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with the final 2 episodes. I'm
I
sure
don't
I
know.
will.
Yeah, I'm going to be a wreck at the end of whatever happens. I'm going to be a wreck at the end of 10.
Right. Yeah. Because you know someone's dying. You just know someone's dying, and it's not going to be Data. We've killed him 3 times.
Not again.
It won't be Data. It's I think we're going to see, and it won't be Riker because he's got a kid, or he does have another kid. He's got a daughter, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so they're not going to kill him. That would be really grim. It's I think you're right. They've set it up. Picard's going to he's going to Captain Kirk it, and it's he's going to say, and it was fun. And then die, kill over. The only thing I would have done, and this is just another stupid nitpick, is I would have made him take Kirk's advice seriously and kept him a captain forever.
Yes.
Because I love that advice that Kirk gave him, and I'm always
Don't ever let them take you off that bridge.
yes. And I'm like, I think Picard would listen to that. I think Picard would have understood that and would have stayed on that bridge no matter what. He would have stayed on the Enterprise. He would be on whatever number of Enterprise there is. He would be there right now. But that's
actually, you just made me think of a plot point. We need to know why the F is being decommissioned.
They did say we're going to find out. They said we're meant to find out what happened to the E and why the F is being decommissioned.
And apparently also spend some time on the bridge of the D.
Yes, true. Oh God, we haven't. So much shit.
I know.
Okay, well, very quickly mention this. Very, very quickly. When they're in the conference room, tell your husband I'm very sorry for for keeping you for so long talking Star Trek stuff. He can join next time. Come on and hang out. It's fine. I was thinking about the conference room scene at the very end of episode 8. Behind them on the screen is the Fleet Museum. And it's swirling around, and there's ships, and I'm like, why are you showing me the Fleet Museum behind you? Because I always thought when we went to the Fleet Museum and they said they can track our ship.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, then you need a ship that they can't track. Gosh dang it.
You need an old one that doesn't have the tracking system.
Exactly. And Alondra did mention, well, what's in Docking Bay 12? And Geordi's like, Alondra, shh. And it's like, wait, so what is in Docking Bay 12? And it wouldn't be a refit, a remodel, a remake.
This could be the saucer. Do we think that? I mean, is that salvageable?
I mean, bits. I mean, according to
I'm sure they didn't just leave it sitting there.
According to this, they salvaged it, but I mean, I guess you could salvage the saucer and put a new body on it.
Or are they gonna take the old saucer and just limp their way back to Earth in nothing but a saucer?
Well, the saucer has warp drive. The saucer has it. Oh my god, the saucer has it. It can separate and it can do its own stuff. Oh my god, we're not getting the whole Enterprise D. We're
the saucer.
We're getting the saucer, aren't we?
Yeah.
They're gonna take the saucer. They're gonna take the saucer section and they're gonna crash it on Earth.
Will it still have carpet?
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Yeah. I think they'll have to keep it. It would be ridiculous to modernize it to the standards that we have now.
Exactly. Yeah. It wouldn't you wouldn't feel there'd be no nostalgia for it because it wouldn't be the same thing.
Yeah, like even if you have black floors and everything else is the same, if the floors aren't the same and the lighting isn't the same,
yeah,
It has to be the same. And interesting, I keep saying the last thing. The other interesting thing about it is that season, everyone sort of, not everyone, but a lot of people complain about the darkness of it. And I haven't really minded the level of
No, I
darkness.
don't. It doesn't. Yeah, people keep saying to me, "Do you not hate the fact it's so dark? You
And
can't
it's
see
like,
anyone's face." I'm like,
I can see people's faces. Have you
"Yeah,
seen Wrath of Khan? It's very dark in that
exactly."
movie. But
Generations is very dark as well.
I hate the lighting in Generations. What were they thinking with that? Was just
Very, very dark.
everything was like there were literal like deep shadows on the bridge, and I'm like, what are you
Yeah,
doing? But I did notice, and maybe this was just my eyes, I don't know, but it did feel like this last episode that the whole ship, everything was just a notch or two lighter.
yeah, it was, wasn't it?
So yeah, it's not just me then. And I'm like, where are
No,
we trying to get to a lighter bridge so that when we get to the D, the lighting won't be so
maybe. Yeah,
jarringly different? Because this episode was, it was brighter. I think it was brighter than some of the others.
there could be some genius jokes about not having a full crew needing to fly the saucer, and please don't put Troy at the helm. Like,
Mm,
I need to see someone joke, like, "We're back on this bridge. You are not flying this. You crashed it last time.
yes,
Let
true.
Crusher
Oh,
have
that'd
a
be
go at
funny.
flying it."
Yeah, remember the last time you were? Remember the last time you piloted this
Oh,
operation?
why did we not see this?
What? What
Sydney.
happened?
Who was the pilot of the D in season 1? Geordie in a red uniform.
Oh
So,
crap!
who pilots the saucer of the Enterprise D in the final time we ever see it on screen? A
A
LaForge
LaForge.
in red.
Oh, yep, yep. Come on, if this doesn't happen, I'm cutting all these bits out, and I'm gonna put them. I'm gonna share these clips on Twitter and YouTube later. But oh my god, yes, the people need to know that we landed on this before the show came out.
Also, Terry, if you are watching and you do need people for the writing staff for Legacy,
Yes,
we've got this down,
we
completely
love the
down.
show. We think you do good work. You you follow us. Come on, man. Come on, buddy. Come on. I can send you a DM if you like after the show. Uh, come on. Also, I'd like to have you on the show. Come on, dude.
He is one of my favorite people I've ever interviewed.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Yeah.
He is cool. He
I
is
have
very
been trying to find, I think I said this to you, I've been trying to find the right words to say to him about the conference room scene in episode 8. I keep writing him messages and then not sending them because it sounds too mushy.
I love you so much, dude. What you did is so great. I love you. Be my friend.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, I do. I get that. It's true though. I mean, the conference scene was like, well, and also the conference scene. This episode 8 was written by Matt. I gotta remember his surname. I'm not. Hang on. I will tell you in 2 seconds. There's another reference to this. Yes, Matt Okumura,
That's it. Yeah.
who also wrote one of my favorite episodes of wait for it, Smallville.
No way.
Yeah, he wrote the episode. I'm gonna pull it up real quickly now. It's in season 2. I can't. Hang on. IMDb is not my friend at the moment. Let's see. This is it. One episode. Fever. He wrote the episode Fever, in which like Martha Kent is it gets sick with kryptonite
Yeah.
spores and all that. Yeah, so he wrote, and literally, and like the FBI kind of like raid the Kent farm, and and they find out that Martha's pregnant in that episode. It's a really good episode. But yeah, Matt wrote that episode, and I'm like, yeah, so he and he nailed it with this episode, I think.
Yeah, he did. He
To
really,
be able
really,
to write
really
that
did.
the first episode where the whole crew is back together sitting around that conference table, what a treat that must have been. Seriously, absolutely wonderful. So Matt, if you were listening, great job. I know you're not, but you might do, but I doubt it. But hey, great work. Final thoughts?
Just love it. I just don't want it to end. I
Yeah.
really don't want it to end.
Yeah. And I think the last like caveat is that despite all of my criticisms, the show is great. Like these criticisms are criticisms I would have of any good show that I enjoy watching, because hindsight is always easier, when you're like,
Yeah.
oh, you could have done this instead. Like that's very easy to do. I think what they have accomplished in season 3 so far has been really quite incredible, considering the very difficult and uneven road that Trek has had over the last 10-12 years,
Yeah.
starting from the first JJ film through to now, because this series has really pulled. There's people out there who just ridiculously hate it for stupid reasons, but this season has pulled a lot of people back who sort of given up on Trek for a while, which I think is a testament to Terry's ability to sort of marry new Trek
Yes, and old Trek
and
together.
old
Yeah.
Trek, and kind of, let's move it forward, and we can make these two things work. Here's how. So it's yeah, very very good work. So hats off to you guys.
I
Um,
I came into this thinking not thinking, but knowing I would enjoy it and I would probably love it.
yeah.
What I didn't anticipate was that this will be one of my all-time favorite seasons of all Trek.
Yes. Yeah. I seriously. Yeah. I mean, it is. You can compare it to some of the old seasons of T and not
Mm,
TNG, but yeah, no, TNG, and there are some seasons that aren't very good. But you could easily find 10 episodes across 7 seasons of TNG that aren't very good. And here you go. You've got 10 episodes that, while yes, you could have combined a few, realistically, like every single one is interesting and exciting, and
yeah,
there's wonderful character moments, and you might not learn a lot plot wise, but you're getting some really good moments between individuals who you've not seen together in forever,
yeah,
and to me, even that to me almost makes it a little bit worth it, where it's like, what, we might not be moving forward leaps and bounds, but like, I love the fact that these two people are having a conversation, and I can sit here and watch them have a conversation because I care about these characters, and you're doing them justice. And I think that's, I do think there's a very conscious effort to make sure they don't generations this. I don't think there's going to be a Kirk level death, and I also think that's why Kirk, they did that scene in there,
yeah.
because it's like, look, I know that was bad. Other, you could say that, this is coming. You know what I mean? Like, there's, you know, maybe that, who knows? But there we go. Anyway, this was a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun, Neil. I'm glad you came on and chatted Trek with me. Hopefully we can do it again. I doubt it'll be 3 hours next time.
Just wait till you've seen episode 10. There could be a 4-hour conversation on just the finale.
I mean, it's possible. It is very. When does it end? It ends in a couple.
So we got 2 weeks to go.
2 weeks to go. 2 weeks. Okay.
So 8 will drop in the UK tomorrow, 9 next week, 10 the week after.
Yeah. I might have to do 2 episodes in 1 week. I know. I know in a couple of weeks, I'm meant to do a Mandalorian season 3 review with another writer friend of mine. That'll be fun. It will actually be fun. It will be funny. It will be funny. But yeah, that will be the week when 10 comes out. So yeah, I might have to think about doing a 2 episodes that week. One on a, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, good fun. Anyone who tuned in, thank you so much for listening and hanging out with us. We had a lot of comments from our Moldrake. You said stuff on your podcast. I don't remember. I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention when you made these comments. I think you're talking. I think this comment is about Janeway. Was in the comics epilogue. Yeah, I don't know what that's about because I don't read the comics, so I'm sorry. Not for any reason. I just haven't read them. I am interested. There is that motion picture comic coming out though. Did you see that?
Oh, I think I have read about that, yeah.
The cover looked pretty cool, and I'm like, that was the first time I've seen a Star Trek comic, and I'm like, I might be interested in picking that up. That looks,
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen a passing image of the cover somewhere.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot at the moment. There's a lot going on with Star Trek in comic books.
There is, and it'd be interesting to see how they play out, because I love comics. I don't read them as much as I used to, and I don't collect them at the rate that I used to either. But yeah, if there are any good ones, let me know in the comments and I will check them out. Other than that, I will be back next week. Is it next week? Yeah, next week. I'm chatting with a friend of mine named James Benmore. He's an author. We're chatting Batman 2 predictions. Which
Ooh.
just for fun, just for fun to, especially now they've brought Clayface back into the picture.
Yeah.
How are they
That's
gonna
interesting news.
are they gonna do proper Clayface, or is it going to be like how they did the Riddler? Well, what are they? Well, anyway, all kinds of
Yeah.
crap we can talk about, but that'll be fun. Neil, tell people where they can find you on the interwebs.
So you can find me on social media at Neil Vagg. So it's NeilVagg. And then my writings, ramblings, podcastings, videos are all Get Your Comic On. So it's www.getyourcomiccon.co.uk. And same name on all major platforms. You find us, socials, podcasts, everything.
Cool.
Everywhere.
There will be links in the description as well to your website and podcasts and
Thank you.
things like that.
It's been a pleasure.
If you're watching this after the show, you can jump down there and jump to those links. But anyway, we will see you some other time in the future. So I will play the outro and see you guys next week.